Good evening, one and all. Welcome to the yearly best and worst. I think we've done this a couple of times now, even a halfway edition, and we've had a rotating crew of guests. But same as last year, Cody Leach to the top right of the screen. How are you, Cody?
I'm doing okay. I've spent the entire day and yesterday and the night before that putting together a new computer table, and taking apart your whole command center and then putting it back is hell on earth, but it's done. So.
Yeah. It definitely looks like there's something different about your backdrop. Echo.
Yeah, instead of it being a table that goes and wraps around me and goes this way, it's just a table here. So I might end up shifting it to the left a little bit. I'm not quite sure, but that's why it looks like I'm a bit off center from where I normally am. And it's just because this is empty space now rather than having, you know, this and other things over here. So still got to play with it. I might put some shelves or something right here and we'll see.
Okay, just say hi again. Apparently there was an echo, but it's all right now.
Hello? Hello? Echo.
Okay.
Echo.
Our echo is gone. Thank you. All right, and to screen bottom, as he joined us in the halfway mark, Gray Poupée. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm doing great. Good times. I'm happy to talk about a bunch of films that I saw last year because I think I might have seen too many. I wish I hadn't seen a bunch of them. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, I rushed towards the end of December, and I was like, "What the?" Just for an even number, I'm like, "I'm gonna get to 100. Just gonna get to 100." And then on like January,
Ray has an echo as well.
What the penis dribble?
I'm just glad it's not me. I'm like, motherfucker, I just hooked this up. It should be perfect.
All right, Gray, speak, please.
Yeah, hopefully only one time now. Sorry, everybody.
It's my fault.
Well, it's my voice, you know.
Was it just a box you had to uncheck?
Fixed.
Does sound good now.
Okay.
Sweet.
Yeah, it's the separate windows. The stupid thing does audio for each window, and I keep forgetting that I have to mute every separate window and make it this. The massive sound is the master sound is its own thing. And then it's like, here, how about this window? How about this window? Yeah, wouldn't be a 2025 edition of a stream if it weren't just janky as fuck. But thank you to those of you in the chat for your kind words and your heads up. So 2024 was it was a year. There was movies involved in the year. I don't know if I expected as much in the. I don't think the negatives were nearly as bad as maybe 2023, but maybe they weren't as egregious. But we'll start with the bad because that's usually what people come for. We'll start with the third lowest, not your least favorite, but your third least favorite film of 2024. And we'll start with you, Gray, just because we got you have. Wait a minute, you've seen 175 movies this year?
Yeah, I watched a lot of it over Christmas.
Jesus.
I thought I was hot shit with my 130.
I mean, I wish I hadn't watched like 40 of them.
All right, so Cody and I are going to do 3. Gray is going to do 20.
Oh, man.
No.
Well, okay. So my number 3, it's a little bit controversial.
Third from the bottom, not the bottom.
Yeah, third. Okay. Oh, wait. So we are doing. Oh, sorry. Yes.
Not the
out
worst.
Of my bottom 10. So out of 175, what is that? Like 173? 3?
Yeah.
I don't know. I suck at math. I don't want to keep doing that. Number 3 worst one for me. It might be controversial for Charles because I happened to watch his ranking the other day, and it seems like we're in polar opposites on this one. It was very close to the top of your list. You had it closer to like 50. Just man,
That's the halfway
I went into
point.
this. Yeah, I'm just saying, this is at the bottom for me. So this movie made a ton of money, and it's definitely guaranteed a sequel. And then there's a huge controversy going on about it, but it ends with us. I hate this movie so much. I really don't like what it tried to do to the audience. I like the style that it tried to do. It's kind of like the Rashomon effect or whatever, where events get reinterpreted after you have more information, recontextualization. This is like the worst way that it can happen. And then just the overall dialogue, the characters, just the names, Lily Blossom Bloom. The one character's name is Ryle, the other guy is Atlas. Just nothing about it strikes reality. And just there's this really awesome video essay that kind of compares Glass Onion and this one. It ends with us, and because both are lying to you, but the way that this one does it is just so wrong. It really, it's the execution is what gets me, and then the overall thing on this, it seems like it's kind of romanticizing a really horrible type situation. So to me, this seems really bad. And then the marketing for it, they said, grab your florals, come out, bring all your friends, and tried to make it seem like it's this rom-com. And it's really something different. And man, to me, it was just very off-putting. And when I ranked my list, it's like, which one on here do I want to see the least? That one really comes up like third worst for me.
To be fair, it seems like when they were promoting that, it seemed like they were trying to promote some sort of romantic comedy/drama, and it was just like, did you guys see the movie you made? Because I'm not exactly sure that's what this is, and the whole Blake Lively thing on top of it, Blake Lively and Justin Baldoni. It's this year's Don't Worry, Darling. And just to clarify, it is not 55 on my list. For some reason, I think I left it at 55 when I only had 70, and it's not supposed to be that high, but yes, I can
What would it be?
80 something.
Okay.
It
I
was
could live with that.
It was 55 back
50.
in like late November when I'd only seen like 80 movies. But yeah, I don't hate it. I strongly dislike it. It's fluff. But I feel like it's just more in a line. Oh boy, I'm going to say something offensive. It's more in the lines of like people who think Breakfast at Tiffany's is the thing to model after, and I don't know if having posters of Audrey Hepburn on your wall, where she's just kind of a money grubbing whore in that movie. For lack of a better definition.
Different problematic thing from that movie, but fair enough.
No, not that. I'm okay with that.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Just everything about this seems so off-putting, and then the way that they actually tackle it, like, so they kind of show you the incident from a different point of view. Only one of them really works out. It really ruins the whole confrontation that happens at the restaurant once you actually put it, like, no, like he actually saw what was happening. That was what was happening. Like, I really despise this movie. I think it's very poor writing. Of course, if you have a character named Lily Blossom Bloom, what does she do? She has to own a flower shop. Like, what other choice does she have? So the one positive I can say about this is I got to take a picture in Lily Blossom Bloom's flower shop. They had this awesome display at my theater, and I'll always have that memory. But that's the best I can do with positive on this. It just, for me, it did not work.
It does seem like, or at least films geared towards the female audience are a little awkward about, like, not completely, it reminds me of 50 Shades and how people would line up and go see that and get fired up to watch a very unhealthy relationship, to put it politely, and it just seems to keep happening, and it doesn't reflect what society wants, or at least it appears as what they say they want. But yeah, it's odd. It is not on my bottom three, but I can certainly understand. I mean, you've seen every single movie in 2024, and it's still in the bottom three, so that's kind of impressive.
Dude, there's so many I want to see. There's like 40 on my list still. So yeah, I want to do better next year.
Cody, what about you?
All right. So number 3 worst is a movie called Tarot. And I'll be fair, even though it would be in my bottom 10 regardless, having it be at my bottom 3, I think, is a victim to the order in which I saw it because I had experienced Night Swim, Imaginary, Afraid, Strangers Chapter 1, and then I saw Tarot, and I was just like, I'm done. I'm fucking done with this. This is a movie that would have come out, like, in January or February, like, in 2001. Just like some goofy teenagers, they curse themselves accidentally. It's very similar to Bye Bye Man, but with the tarot card sheen to it. The only thing that they kind of do that's somewhat interesting is like the creature design of the different tarot characters that are coming after them, but that's me trying to be nice about something.
Mhm.
It's one of those films that's made to be PG-13, so there's no kills, there's no carnage candy. If they do get killed, they cut away or they, like, turn to a wall and you see a blood splatter, and I that's the type of experience it is. Like, if you're 12 years old and your parents just let you go to the movies for the first time with your girlfriend or whatever, and you go to do a rated R horror or a PG-13 horror movie, like, this is something I could see them being like, "Oh, that was good," but if you've seen horror before this,
Yeah.
you're like, no, 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 nothing there for me, I'm sorry."
If you've
And
seen,
then you
like,
got a
another
character that
movie.
yeah, you have a character too, like, it's got the kid who's the sidekick in the new Spider-Man movies. I can't remember his name,
Oh.
Ned. It's got him in there, and he's the only person in the cast that's recognizable, and so, spoiler alert for Taro, he literally is like it's one of those Bye Bye Man things where it's like, "You cannot escape, you're dead." And he's backed into a corner of an elevator with the monster coming at him, and it cuts away and it never shows him die. And then in the third act, at the end of the climax of the movie, he just shows up. He's like, "Yeah, I lived." And they don't explain it. They don't do anything. And it was just like, what the fuck? And so even that, you're just like, dude, just eat one. So yeah,
What
Tarot, like it's a movie that's it's exactly what you expect it to be. Is it worse than Imaginary and Night Swim and Afraid? I guess it depends on what order you see it, because I saw it last, and 20 minutes in, I was just like, I'm done.
Yeah,
I'm done
wasn't
with
it released in the
2024.
summer? That wasn't no January movie. That was like
No, it was
No,
like
January was Night
April
Swim.
or something like that. So yeah, that's what I mean. Like every horror pretty much up to this point, it was like, dude, this is going to be one of the most epically awful years for horror ever. And thank God it turned
mm.
around hard. But yeah, by the time I saw Tarot, I was just like, dude, fuck this year. Just fast forward to 2025. I'm done.
Wow.
Yeah.
When did you I'm trying to think when that, like, that trope started of doing the games horror, because there was Ouija, there was,
Mhm.
Truth or Dare. It had to be Ouija first, right? Is that the first one where they were just kinda
I
teenage
mean,
kids?
Bye Bye Man predates all of those,
Oh,
but it's a trope that we've seen for a
yeah,
long time. Dumb teenagers curse themselves, and then one by one, the curse comes for them. They just put a different spin on what curses them. It's a Ouija board, it's tarot cards, it's,
yeah.
this saying the Bye Bye Man.
It just yeah, it's like big budget cheap, if that somehow makes sense.
Yeah.
Um,
I've seen people try to argue for it as like a good gateway horror movie, and I'm like, if you're gonna try to give a gateway for a new horror fan, why would you want to watch this?
mm,
Like, show them Poltergeist or something for Christ's sake. Have a little bit of standards.
yeah. Yeah, there's plenty of, like, good older stuff that's PG-13 that is just good.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about the R rating so much, it's just a good movie.
Did you like that? Good, because there's way better out there. Just buckle the fuck up.
It gets way better from here.
Yeah.
Okay, so my 3rd from the bottom, um, I'll be fair, I didn't have much expectation going into it. This is one of the later ones that I saw of the year, but it's, Dennis Quaid in Reagan. And, I I the way they tell this story is kind of weird because the starting point is the attempt on Ronald Reagan's life, and, then they kind of I guess you're wondering how I got here, except it's done, like, from 2 Russian spies' perspectives, and one of the spies is John Voight, and
A great accent.
with an abysmal Russian accent, and, like, I don't know why we need to be told about Ronald Reagan via a Russian's perspective, like, throughout his entire life, like, "Oh, back when he was actor, we had the eye on him." Um, but it just it's propaganda. It's just, "Oh, he was always great. Here's everything that's great," and it just goes through everything. There's no real struggle or anything. They ruined Scott Stapp.
Loses that one election. I mean, they showed a little bit.
It takes a while for him to actually like, Mina Suvari's in it too as his, wait, did they get married? They were an item for a bit before he met Nancy. I don't remember if they got married, but Mina Suvari was his first, like, fling, and, things just fall apart, and there's nothing to grasp onto, like, "Oh, yeah, I could see it coming." It just they just stop being a couple, and I don't know. It's very safe, eh, soft. If you want a God's Not Dead version of Ronald Reagan, I give you this movie, and I genuinely wanted to feel like I can learn things about him that I didn't know of the president, and it was just kind of a puff piece, and I don't like it when it feels like they're just
I thought you
doing
were gonna end it with that, sorry. I thought it was just gonna be, "I don't like it."
well, that is evident, but, don't just give me propaganda. Do some things that were challenging, like, I don't know, him struggling with politics in the '60s and '70s or whatever, but, Quaid did a good job. That's about it. It seems like this was something of a passion project for him, and
It
and
was, from what I understand. Like, it I think it was over a decade or something he's been, like, trying to get this off the ground, and
really.
it looks like he put a lot into that impression or,
Mm.
becoming that character, but, it's hard to disagree with you. The John Voight thing's on a little thick, and it's weird to just have this opponent just really talking up and giving you the complete biography, but a glowing one, just in his own words. It's odd.
It's like watching Rocky 4, but Ivan Drago is just the narrator for the whole thing, and it's like, "Wait, what? What is happening here?"
What's this, American?
He was so strong, like piece of iron. But
That bitch leave me in secret.
yeah, that was my third least favorite. Gray, what about number 2 from the bottom for you?
2 from the bottom. So I guess I'm kinda cheating on this one. I'm technically putting, like, 3 movies here, but hear me out on this. So it's technically 1 movie. It is, Rebel Moon Part 2,
Uh,
The Scargiver, but then I wanted to give it a little bit of credit because the rated R versions were also being released a little bit later on this year. So it's kind of all of them put together, are my collective number 2 of last year.
Okay.
I think it was Zack Snyder's collective number 2 of last year. Just man, I don't know. When I saw the first one, I thought it can't get worse. Like, okay, so now we've gone through this video game like thing, and we've picked up all these different characters. So okay, the action's gonna start, and just the action. And then I was given the explanation of no, 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 the action's in the rated R cut. Like you don't understand. Like the reason why he showed so much wheat and just so much slow mo is they were just filling time because they couldn't use those shots from the other one.
Mhm.
And that is not true. There is even more wheat and more angles of it, and it is even slower. Um, so I don't know, man. There's just no part of this seems to work for me, and it has one of the worst scenes that I've ever seen in cinema, where for some reason we're going to take out I can't remember if he's a king or an emperor, but the ruler of this entire thing. So what are we going to do in secret? We're going to blindfold an orchestra and put them in a room and have them do, really dramatic music while we're doing this deed because, it's got to be kept secret. Just man, like no part of it makes sense. The villain's accent just it really grinds my gears. And then just people like to say that Tarantino had a real tell. Like you could kind of see something that he was interested in when you look at all of his movies.
Feet.
It's made me yeah, well, I think Snyder might have something with wheat because,
Rhymes.
man, it is, like, too much, and then it's made me think of some of his older films too, and I remember weird shots of wheat, and I thought at the time maybe they were, like, harkening back to Gladiator, but
Mm.
I don't think so anymore. These movies have really made me think differently about Zack Snyder, and, I thought maybe the rated R versions would kind of account for everything because his explanation was, he's not using any of the same shots from the PG ones or the original ones, and everything is a new shot. It doesn't get any better
Is
though.
it
They are different takes, but it is the exact same thing, just a little bit bloodier.
excuse me, is it true that he has, like, a genuine sex scene in the movie now or
I
whatever?
think there's one in
Uh,
both parts.
Oh, even
yeah,
the original?
it's more graphic, but that doesn't really help it. I feel bad for, now I'm blanking on her name. It's
Sophia Boutella?
Maria. That's the one. I was totally gonna call her a wrong name. I feel bad that she had to have that haircut for as long as she did, and that she's probably gonna have to get it again for the next one, but, so on top of that, the horrible assassination scene, there's another scene where, like, they're falling for, like, a good 10 minutes, and they're in the hangar, but so's their ship, and everything is falling for, like, 10 minutes, and then they just fly out of there. There's no explanation for anything, there's no continuity, and after we've, like, met everybody in the first movie, they have this big scene that gives all their backstory. Like, none of it makes sense. From what I understand, he had this giant script. He didn't have 2 different movies. They said, "That's way too long. You can't make it." So he literally just cut it in half. To me, neither of these halves work, but if I'm going to rank one as worse, it is the conclusion of this. At least that first part, I could kind of enjoy like a video game-like feature, but man, I'm not a fan of these, which sucks 'cause, I really wanted to like it, but I can see why Disney passed. I don't know why Netflix okayed this.
Dude, I
Yeah,
was go ahead, Cody.
that whole Rebel Moon thing really like hurt my love for Zack Snyder too. Like I'm not one of the Zack Snyder bros, but I've always been one of a fan of his. Always been kind of a defender. And I just don't for the life of me understand why you would follow up the nonsense that you dealt with at WB with Batman v Superman and especially with Justice League by doing this fucking convoluted like auto fellatio thing that he did where it's like, I'm gonna do this PG-13 cut so that when my rated R cuts come out, they can like deconstruct my own movie. And it's like, dude, you sound like you are sucking yourself off every single time you're talking about these movies. So I love him as a director. I think visually he's so talented. I think that when he has somebody else write the film, he really puts out good stuff.
How many
But
times can
yeah,
we say that about
Agreed.
certain directors? There are a handful of directors where if they just don't touch the script, they could
yeah. Well,
do
he's most of his films he doesn't write them, but the ones that he does, they just get so like epic, convoluted, and lore filled, and it just I don't know. It's like Zack Snyder's his own biggest fan, and I gotta can't help but feel like the fan community that he has built since the Justice League thing has only made him like buy his own hype a little bit, like
Mm,
high in his own supply. So I really hope whatever he does next is something smaller, like his first couple of films, because I just can't take any more of the like 3-hour epic extended director ultimate cut bullshit. It just it turned me off so much.
I completely agree with you. The one thing that I wanna add is, he also was cinematographer on this one.
Yeah.
Uh, Pare it back, just direct, man. Like,
mm.
I don't know. He has some really good ones, but, yeah, I think the high on his own supply thing is very apropos for this situation.
I
Yeah.
have less and less interest in seeing it. First, I was gonna watch the first one, then I think it was you, Cody. You said there's a second part, and I'm like, oh fuck, I'll just wait for the second one. And then I think Rudy was like, oh, wait till the director's cut. And it's just like I'm
When I heard Rudy say, like, it's a little bit better, I was like, yeah, I ain't fucking watching it. I'm not fucking putting myself through another 4 hours of this world. I'm sorry.
If he's not giving it a glowing response, then we got problems.
Yeah, no shit.
See, so for my number two, I I I have an easy answer, but I don't know if I want to give it because
Our bottom 5 was identical with the exception of Taro swapping for Reagan, so
okay. So I'm gonna do a little move on the fly here because I kind of want to talk about this with well, I think Gray and I have spoken about it before, but I'm gonna throw Dear Santa in here on
Okay.
on a late switch because
Fair enough. I get it. I liked it more than you guys, but I'm not going to be a champion of this movie. It's not a great movie.
You just sit
Ye-
down, shut up, and listen.
Listen, Mister, I saw 645 movies this year, and it was only 542. I love the Farrelly brothers, and I'll be the first to admit that they miss every now and again. But tonally speaking, I don't know what their target was because it felt like they were trying to be edgy. It felt like they were trying to do like classic 90s Farrelly Brothers stuff. And then at the same time, it felt like they were trying to do like modern Three Stooges era Farrelly Brothers stuff. And they didn't really go full in the water in either version. And it's not good. It's extremely poor. And then the third act really, really, really makes it atrocious. And like I would say the last 5 to 10 minutes, you're like, oh, this movie was terrible, but now this is literally a joke. Um,
But it sets up the final joke. Then
oh
roll
my
credits.
God, joke. Um, I I'm not one to get offended about things, especially things like that. But the way they present everything that happens, it's just like, wait, no, you can't do that. You just can't end the movie like that. I'm sorry. I don't care if it's Christmas or not. This is bullshit.
Okay. I don't want to defend this too much, but there's two things that I want to defend. They did set it up a little bit more than you notice on the first watch. I unfortunately watched it a second time. It did not get better, but you do see that there is a little bit more setup. Like there's photos in the background.
There's
that you can
there's
see that
subtle
there was.
hints. Watch it 10 times.
There
It
are
gets
very
better
subtle
every time.
hints, but
Sounds like me
it doesn't
listening
make
to
it any
Charles
better.
talk about like, they totally set up Pamela. If you look at the Jeep.
They're
Fuck
subtle.
outta
But
here
they're
with that.
there. They're going for it. But
Yeah.
you're right. Well, let me do the other bit of praise for it. The kid who is the star, I wish I could remember his name. It's a three-name name.
Hmm.
Anyway, that's the same kid who's playing Neil in Skeleton Crew.
Oh,
There's something to him. I do like him as a child actor. Like he has this certain weirdness about it. I think they kind of compared him to Albert Brooks in the behind the scenes thing, and it's like, yeah, I can kind of see something weird about like his mannerisms. Like, okay. So he didn't bug me as much as a lot of the other child actors this year really have. So I do want to give him a little bit of praise for really carrying this movie. He wasn't the worst part of it. But yeah, man, it does feel like they did not want to pick a lane, and it just suffered in every which way. Because I think, like you mentioned, they wanted to keep it somewhat family friendly, but then the big twist is not necessarily family friendly. So how are they doing that? And then they just keep dipping their toes into like kind of edginess, but it doesn't feel like they actually picked a lane. And I think
is
that's the problem with this one.
is the fib, the white lie they tell about his best friend, is that first act stuff? Because
Uh,
he makes up a story about something with his friend, and that was
I
the
think
first
that
sign
is
from
like towards the end of the first act. Yeah.
okay, so he has a friend that he like sneaks out of the house to go hang out with, and he tells his parents that the kid's got cancer.
Mhm.
And that was step one for me, where it was like, oh, this kid better really have cancer, otherwise we're gonna have a problem.
Well, there's a certain logic to it. He's going to have multiple trips that he's going to need to go to, multiple sessions. Like, this isn't a one-time lie.
Yeah,
What
But
parents let their kid go off to a situation like that? Like, okay, have fun at chemo. See you at dinner time. What the fuck is this?
I'm sorry. In the world of like moral virtue, a movie, you do not reward a kid who lies about his friend having cancer with what they gave us at the end. That is not the proper output for what happens in that movie. Just thoroughly shocked at how it got worse for me. But
I thought it was funny how
Fair
they give the
enough.
kid, like, the most Three Stooges pair of false teeth to, like, over accentuate the fact that he's got fucked up teeth, and he's
Uh-huh.
like, "Jesus Christ, how do you even chew?"
Yeah,
And
see,
then
that
and
felt
then he
like old
gets the
school.
good teeth, and it's like, "Those look just as fake." Does he have normal teeth that he can
Like
show?
like
Does it
Matt
have to be, like, Hollywood level veneers? What the
they're
fuck is
they're
that?
the same teeth from There's Something About Mary that Matt Dillon had.
Yeah, exactly. Fucking shut up, chompers.
Uh, I guess this wasn't the worst. There's a, I don't know. Are we doing any spoilers or what? I guess it's in the
Yes,
trailer. But
spoilers don't apply to this.
all right. So Post Malone, it's not his worst appearance this entire year. He has done much worse in my books. So for that, I would also give this somewhat of a compliment. But yeah, the concert scene is not too accurate. But he was much less annoying than this than he was in like Roadhouse. Like I could see him getting nominated for like a Razzie or something to be the world's best bare knuckle boxer in that. Where I don't
Hmm.
know, he seemed like Post Malone in this one, but because he's playing a different character.
But like that's the other thing, like with the tone, like you can kind of tell it if that sequence weren't a dream or whatever. It's like this is really weird. Why is this playing out this way? And why is he acting this way? And it turns out, oh, the excuse is because it's not exactly him
I mean,
of his own
It felt
accord.
very
you get
much like a Happy Madison type of scene to me, where
Yeah,
it's just like, let's figure out a way to get this celebrity in here.
yeah.
And so it's like, oh, his first wish is to go to a Post Malone concert, so let's shoot it in a high school gym and have a
yeah,
good
that's my main
time
problem.
shooting this for a couple of days. And you
Uh,
got Jack Black in there, so you know you got to get him on stage dancing at some point. That was the big thing. Like, I love Jack Black. You have to work really hard for me not to enjoy Jack Black at all. And it just felt like they gave him nothing. They were just
mm,
like, do the Jack Black thing, like talk, but talk like this. And that's all he had the whole
yeah.
movie. And
Yeah.
it, you go through it, and like I had no expectations for this. I only watched it because my wife was like, "There's a new Post Malone movie." That's how she like pitched it to me, and she's a Post Malone fanatic. So I was
Okay.
like, "Okay, fine, I'll watch it." Once I heard Jack Black Christmas movie, I was like, "Okay, it's probably not gonna be great, but like, how bad could it really be?" Huh. And then you watch it, and then it said that I think it was Peter Farrelly that wrote it and Bobby Farrelly that directed it, if I'm not mistaken. And I was like, "Oh shit, okay, cool." Like most of their shit I love. That's
Mhm.
okay. This is probably gonna be kind of funny. And then you do the whole like it's not really picking up here, but then they introduce the whole bedazzled thing where it's like, I'm gonna give you 3 wishes. And I was like, oh, I love bedazzled. Let's see what
Yeah.
they do with it. They don't
Mhm.
really do anything with it. Like he doesn't use it to like teach the kid a lesson. The kid just makes wishes.
Yeah.
I want to go to a concert. Okay, you got 2 more. I want my friend's fucked up teeth to be really fucking fake, but better. Okay, cool. You got 2. And then out of nowhere, I wish my parents would just stop arguing. It's like, God, what a waste of a wish. Okay. And then,
Yeah.
yeah, the whole thing at the 3rd act, like, it was already, like, just this painfully unfunny drag of a holiday streaming service film, and then you get that whole thing with, like, the dead brother, and I'm just like, "Where the fuck did this come
Dude,
from?" And
and that's the
It is
issue.
kind of a classic, though. Like, it's the gulp roll credits. Like, I mean, what else situation would you use there?
Dude, if you
It's the
have
ultimate.
3 wishes, wouldn't you wish for your dead brother to come back instead of maybe
I
your parents
mean,
fighting?
I would
I
assume it's not an
fuck him, I
option.
wanna see Post Malone.
I didn't know we could bring people back. Like, they didn't explain all the rules.
To be fair, I wanna say I'm not gonna watch it again to confirm, but I wanna say Jack Black at one point said you can't do that, like, to set the stage, and the only reason that happened was because the actual devil got involved, which again is, like, a really weird thing. Like, I'm not somebody to get offended about this, but we have a movie that's based around the birth of Christ, and the devil's, like, the hero. You know what I mean? The devil gives him
Yeah.
his present at the end. It's like, "What are we doing?" Brian, I want you to watch this.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
A long
Don't hear any
weekend.
more
Yeah.
We're not doing horror anymore, just Christmas movies, Brian, starting with this one.
It really sucks because this one, kind of like we were talking about with Reagan, where like somebody's passion project, it was like a decade in the making. Sadly, this one was over a decade. I can't remember exactly what year they had the script, but there's been a bunch of different iterations of it, and they just keep championing it. It just seems like it's a film from a different time, and I don't know if maybe that's where, like, the different tonal shifts are coming from as, like, different stabs of this, but yeah, just it's I don't know why now is the time for this, but, yeah,
Very good point.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna champion it.
Even by Ben Stiller being the devil, it feels like a gag that makes sense in, like, 2001.
Yeah.
Again, very Happy
Mm.
Madison, like,
Yeah.
like, Adam Sandler's
A
the
little
devil in
Nicky
Dirty Work.
spinoff. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Odd, odd, odd movie.
Ben Stiller was in the 2 worst Christmas movies this year.
Ah, so you saw Nutcrackers then?
I did.
Huh.
Who's next with their number 2?
I guess it would be me. So, number 2 for me is gonna be Madam Web. This pretty
Thank you.
much exemplifies the worst of studio filmmaking for 2024 by a landslide. There are some people out there that can have, like, a so bad that it's good experience with this. That's fine. I can't. To me, this is pathetic that this exists. I mean, you have a movie that I mean, this entire universe is pathetic, especially everything that they put out in 2024, but Madam Web was like the worst, most egregious of it. And Craven the Hunter was only one spot away from my bottom 10. So that shows you how close they were. But Madam Web, I mean, first of all, just the idea of it. It's like, who the fuck was asking for like 4D level Spider-Man characters to have their own spinoff? Then you have the whole thing, like, apparently one version of this movie was gonna be like a riff on the Terminator, where Madam Web was gonna be like the Kyle Reese character, and Peter Parker's mom was gonna be like the Sarah Connor, and that she's trying to protect her so that Spider-Man can eventually be born.
Hmm.
I don't know if that movie would have ended up being worth a damn, but that's like 1,000 times better of an idea than what we got.
Yeah.
Sounds
And
cool.
you have ADR out the ass. I don't know if there's a single line by the villain in this movie that's not from the back of his head or with him
Don't think so.
mouthing some other word. You got scenes in here that are so, like, laughably horrible that I totally understand why some people watch it as a so bad that it's good. Like, it starts off with Madam Web's mom in the Amazon. It sets the stage. They've been out there for, like, months looking for this specific spider, and the guy who ends up being the villain, he's like, "Oh, fuck, like, all right, I'm gonna go have lunch," and he walks away, and when he gets to the tent, she just runs at him. She's like, "I found it! I found the spider!" And it's like, "Okay, moving on." And even later on, when Madam Web's, like, finds a picture of her mom, and she's like, "I think I need to go to the Amazon to get answers." So she just goes to the Amazon and ends up in right in the forest, right exactly in the right spot that she needs to be for the spider people to come down, like as an address or some shit on a tree. And above all of that, besides just horrible filmmaking, the marketing for all of these movies has been so manipulative and dishonest that it just angers me. Like, they marketed this movie based off of the like 3-second flashback scene that you get with all these characters in their spider suits. It's
Hmm.
3 seconds of a 2-hour movie, but they market it like this is what this is about, the spider chicks coming together, and it's not. So the way that they have made these movies, for whatever reason, I don't know what the motivation is, if it's just to keep the rights. I don't know if there's like money laundering, whatever the fuck is going on. The way that they have tried to just get any bit of money out of Spider-Man fans by putting, even with Morbius, putting Spider-Man in pieces of the trailer that's just not in the movie. Go fuck yourselves. So I'm glad that they have at least put the pin in this universe for now.
Dude, how greedy do you have to be to put out Madam Web, Venom, and Craven in the same year?
Yeah.
Like, you're not
Especially if you
Marvel.
It's like the fucking junk drawer. I mean, you're like, Venom 3 was at least watchable-ish, but,
Mm,
like, Madam Web is just there's just nothing in it that works. There's nothing, and I loved the fact that the stars of this movie gave no fucks by the
yeah.
time that the press round came. They were just like, "Pff, whatever." You know what I mean? Like, Sydney Sweeney held no words back about, like, "I did this just so I could make Immaculate. Sorry." And, you know, you got Dakota Johnson where they're like, how much changed between the initial script and what's in the theater that we're watching today?" And she's like, a lot."
There was a script.
So, I mean, I just don't understand. Like, Sony is capable of making incredible superhero
Mhm.
films. All of the best Spider-Man films are still from Sony, in my opinion. and how they're making those, how even concurrently, how they're making the Spider-Verse
Mm,
animated films in the same studio that's pumping out this dog shit. And it makes the brand of Spider-Man worse. It makes the comic book genre as a whole worse in a time where we don't need movies like this. We need a few
no.
hits. And so I want to know, like at some point 10 years from now, there's going to be like a leaked email that said that there was like a producer that had a bone to pick and he was just making these movies to fuck with their finances or something. There's got to be some reason other than just a constant oops.
There's that moment where she, like, saves the 3 girls at the train or the subway or whatever, and then she takes them in a cab, and they drive in the middle of a forest, and
Yeah.
they
Stay
do
here or you'll
yeah.
die. Let's go fucking dance on a table at a Waffle House.
Let's go play Toxic at the diner, and then she
Mhm.
just bails, like, eh, if that were the only issue, I think I would still be scratching my head about, like, why any of it. And they shoehorn that whole Peter Parker thing in without really kind of
Oh, it's the most awkward and infuriating way to do, like, winks at the audience, and they
mm,
did it, like, 3 or 4 times. Like, she's talking to Uncle Ben, and
yeah.
he's like, "Yeah, I
Mhm.
started seeing this girl. I really like her. What's her name?" And he's like, I'm not ready to tell you." It's like, "Fuck you. Get out of here." And then even you get to the little baby shower. It's like, "What do you think we're gonna name him?" "I don't know. Maybe put." Phone ring. "Oh, I don't know." It's like, "Oh, get the fuck out of here." Like, we don't know. Like, her saying Peter's gonna be like,
Yeah,
"I get it."
and that's the thing too, like, even if they do say Peter, what payoff is that? Like, what if you know or you don't, what does the name Peter mean to you? Like, "Yeah, I know. We know."
Yeah.
Or if you
I
don't, you're like, "Oh, okay, that's a good name, I guess."
I remember thinking it
I
was fucking hilarious. There was like an article that came out like a week or two before this movie released in theaters where it was something along the lines of they were trying to like make this canon to the Andrew Garfield Spider-Man. And then right before they released the film, they realized that the timeline didn't work. So they were like, oops. And they just cut it. Like, I don't know if that's true, but it sounds plausible.
Sure, it's Sony.
Yeah. I'm like, oh, fuck. Yeah. He'd be like 4 in this movie. Yeah. Never mind.
What were you gonna say, Greg?
So I'm not gonna champion in this one, but I don't know. This one's a lot more fun of a watch than a bunch of them that I saw last year. While I'm not gonna say any aspect of this is good, and well, anytime you set the end of your movie at a Pepsi sign, like I don't know, that's a pretty good sign. But I don't know. I've seen this a couple times since it came out, and I gotta be honest, I would watch this like any day over a good portion of the ones that I ended up seeing last year.
That's not
There's
exactly a ringing
some
endorsement though, is it?
It's not,
Oh,
and
okay.
I'm not endorsing it at all, but, I think you can kind of get some, there's a reason why some of the memes have, lasted a little bit. Just the dialogue in it is amazing, like, "I hope the spiders were worth it, mom." Like, why? Why would anyone ever say that? Like, I don't know.
So
It's just
so
it could have been awesome, like Cody was saying, like, I heard the Kyle Reese thing, and it's like, "Yeah, that would be awesome, like Terminator in this." But then what they kinda showed us in the trailers was, like, Final Destination, but with superheroes, and it's like, that could be really
yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
I
You
still
get
think that could
nothing
be a
and you like
really
it.
awesome
You
that
like
could
that
still be an
idea?
awesome horror
Fuck you.
movie
How
if you
about that?
but yeah, just what we got. It's not great, but, I don't know. I was laughing at it the first time I saw it, and I still laughed at it the last time I saw it, so yeah, it comes a little higher on my list.
I
So
wanna see
I
Gray's
respect it.
full quote on the poster. Like, "I've had vinegar in my eyes, this is better."
so Sony essentially is big budget Tommy Wiseau. So they're only there for memes.
Yeah.
It seems like it, yeah.
Okay. Fair enough.
It's Morbin time.
Gray, did you give your 2?
I did. Yes. Rebel Moon,
Oh, okay.
the great one.
So we're up to our 1s then. I think
I think
Cody and
we
I
are.
share our 1s.
We
So
do.
so Gray, go ahead and
Ooh,
give us your
okay.
number
Um
249.
so so I was kinda debating on this one, but I did kinda put it on the one that I wanna see the least in the entire year.
And you saw it
I
anyway.
don't well, no, the one that I wanna see least ever again, sorry, in my
Oh,
entire life.
okay.
I can't see any reason why I'd ever want to see this, and it sucks because I like a lot of the actors that were involved in this. I don't have a particular affinity for the source material, but I understand it. So I'm actually talking about the worst remake of the year, and that for me was The Crow.
Oh,
First off,
Hmm.
I don't know why the hell this needed to be remade. If so, why you're using the Eric character? Like you don't need to. Like there's so many other Crow characters that you could have used. Just tell one of their stories. But
Yeah.
what this film can't do in like 50 minutes, the other one does in like a flashback in like 2 minutes, and it makes it way more poignant than just two junkies who shared a car ride to a beach together. I don't know. It doesn't exactly everything that the first one did right, it feels like this didn't understand and then completely did the opposite of. I just don't get a love story. I don't get that in the revenge. Even his revenge, like he takes out in the one action scene that we get in this movie, he takes out so many innocent people, and I don't think that I don't know. Like, do they get all come back as the Crow and avenge their own like random death? I don't know. It just seems interesting to me that this was the way that they decided to go with it. Um, I have seen, I think, 2 of the other Crow spinoffs, and man, even those were better than this. It really sucks. I love Bill Skarsgård, and for some
mm.
reason, in this one, this is the worst performance I've ever seen
We
from him. I'm pretty sure it was the direction he was given, but
it's funny how many decent to good slash great actors had misses in 2024, yet still had plan Bs and Cs. Like we talked about Sydney
Mhm.
Sweeney earlier. Bill Skarsgård, Boy Kills World? Is that
Yeah,
the
Boy Kills World,
yeah,
I l
Nosferatu.
I love that. Oh, I haven't seen Nosferatu yet, but
you should.
it's funny. Yeah, I know. I I was busy dying.
Ah, fair enough. Excuses.
But yeah, I I don't remember the original Crow focusing that much on the love story.
It doesn't. It literally focuses on it for, like, maybe 1% of the story of the entire runtime.
Yeah.
That's what the comparison that Gray was making makes it, like, that much worse, that this movie spends half its runtime, if not just a little bit less than that, trying to get you to buy into this, like, eternal level love that these 2 characters have, and you're like, "I don't fucking get it." They feel like Bonnie and Clyde junkies, like,
Dude,
what is
and
I
they
don't
just
understand, and then the other
met.
film yeah, the other film starts with him just getting resurrected, and you just see, like, quick little flashes of the murder, and you're like, "I get it. I like, this works."
Yeah.
You also have, like, the Ernie Hudson character and everything like that in that first
Yeah,
one. Like, there's a moral center to it. In this
yeah,
one, it
and
just
the little girl.
it's very weird. Yeah, he goes to that weird upside down place in this one for
Hmm.
some reason.
It's a train
The
station.
sad
Even
thing is they could have just made this like a schlocky action horror movie and still been very entertaining while being like low-hanging fruit. Like when you see the action scene in the 3rd act, you're like, if you'd have just done this for the like 2nd and 3rd act, like this would have been at least a fun movie to
Mm,
watch, if not something that we can at least be entertained by. But like you get that and you're like, okay, that was cool. Like you're kind of doing Crow Wick, but why is this only one fucking sequence in the whole movie?
exactly. Vigilante movies are kinda dime a dozen at this point. But like you
Mhm.
said, just do Crow Wick for 60, 70% of the movie, and it'll be okay enough. Like, I don't
Yeah.
know why this was necessary, this movie. I'm not that big a fan though, because I know people are, like, huge on Crow, and it was probably way more offensive to them. I don't know, Gray, are you big on the original?
I'm not huge on it.
Okay.
I respect it, and I can see why people are super into it, but, yeah, I definitely was not a fanatic or anything like that, but man, I don't know why this movie was made. That would be my poll quote if I had to give one for this. Just I don't know,
Why does
man.
this exist? Right.
Yeah, like there is no reason. So this wasn't the absolute worst movie that I saw last year. That goes to, like, an independent one, so I figured it wasn't really fair. So
Oh,
let me go with the ones that people have heard of. But, just to throw it out there, the real worst movie that I saw last year was called Trapped In. Never watch it. It's a Matt Rife straight to streaming thing. Never watch
Oh,
this thing. It is horrible. There is no reason to.
is
I
it a
like Matt
stand-up
Rife, but he
film?
needs to stop doing movies
Oh,
because
it's a
yeah,
movie.
he did a vampire movie with,
Yeah, don't suck.
Jamie Kent. Oh, it was fucking horrible.
This is
Fucking
worse.
horrible. That was in my bottom 5 last year.
Yeah, nobody saw it, so I figured it wouldn't make sense to put it on this list. But yeah,
Is
just
it
to
a
throw an extra one out there.
comedy at least?
It's kind of a horror, kind of a sci-fi, kind of a pandemic movie.
Oh.
Also kind of a sports movie. He's on a cycling team. It's not worth saying.
Well, you were taking it easy on the, independent stuff. Less so for me. I think Cody too, but, um, a film that it was chasing every extra dollar they could last year and put none of the effort in is The Mousetrap. And
Mhm.
I understand it was probably made for $20,000, maybe less. Um, but if you're going after those big Disney dollars, then I'm going to treat your film as if it's something that, the dollar is still, we don't pay you a discounted rate just because you paid less into it because you certainly as hell wouldn't stop collecting money if you hit your, I don't know, independent.
If they could have put this in theaters and marketed as a Fathom event that cost you $20 a ticket,
Sure.
they would have.
Sure. And the movie is just how do we get Steamboat Willie, otherwise known as Mickey Mouse, into a movie? And that's really it. It's
Mhm.
like this weird what would you what would you
Like
call
they It's like they ran out of Chuck E. Cheese for a weekend, they hired their friends, wrote some dialogue really quick on the back of a pizza box, and bought a Mickey Mouse mask from Spirit Halloween.
Yeah.
And that's not even an exaggeration, like,
Yeah.
that's just how it feels, like, there's no Mickey Mouse in here, it's a fucking security guard that wears a Mickey Mouse mask. He teleports for reasons that are never given,
Dude, you
and so
spill water on electricity. That's how he teleports and is
yeah.
also created, I guess.
Yeah, so yeah, he teleports around, like, you get scenes where characters are just sitting around talking, and it's just like, "Oh my god, this fucking dialogue and this acting." Like, you already have low expectations, and somehow it, like, can't even meet those.
Dude,
And
they
then by the end of the film, like, it's one of those like, what was that movie that, it was infamous. It was a January, like, demonic possession movie that literally just ended with, like, a text crawl. Like, didn't even have an
Oh,
ending. You know what I'm talking about, but
yeah, I know that one. Oh,
this
it's
movie
gonna bug me.
almost pulls that, where, like, it just stops and cuts to black and goes to credits, and you're like, "That's not even an ending. Like, you don't have a story here. I'm sorry, but that's not the ending to what you were trying to do. It's just we're done." Like,
well,
"Ah, we're done. Bye."
yeah, they do that weird ending with the person in prison, like, "Ooh, I was in on it the whole time." It's like, I don't care.
Yeah,
Like, it just doesn't matter to me.
yeah,
There
Who
are far too
just helped
many.
us out with The Devil Inside was that
correct.
one.
Oh,
Yeah.
I
So, like,
haven't
Yeah.
seen that.
it's not exactly that, but that's exactly how jarring it is when it cuts to credits. You're like, "What the fuck? Fucking eat me."
One of the biggest mistakes I see, small budget filmmakers do who maybe believe in their script a bit too much is put too many people with speaking roles in shots, and there are many a scene in this movie where you have 4, 5, 6 people in frame, and they all have, like, not just, "Hey, what are we doing here?" They have, like, jokes, dialogue, and they're just going back and forth, and they're not quality actors, to say the very least, and, uh is it a horror movie, or are you trying to get some of
I
your.
mean, for a slasher, there sure as shit isn't any carnage in here. Like,
Yeah.
you get one kill that I remember, which is just like a decapitation with a CGI spray. It's there's just nothing. Like, as much shit as I gave Winnie the Pooh Blood and Honey, I think this
Oh,
is worse.
yeah, no, there's dude, the thing I said about Winnie the Pooh all those years ago, the opening 2 minutes, there was
Mhm.
effort. Like, you could tell that there was something behind that. This
Yeah,
was just like, "How do we
and
make money?"
even retroactively, when I look back after having talked with them and, like, you could see I still don't think they made a good film at all. I never changed my opinion on that film, but I can at least see them being, like, cripplingly restricted by their budget
Mhm,
and just hoping they're gonna get money to do more, and I think they did a lot more when they got more money for the
mhm,
second one.
mhm.
This one doesn't feel like, "Oh, man, we wanted to do so much, but our budget." It felt like, "We have nothing, no ideas, we don't know what the fuck to do," but I heard, Steamboat Willie's gonna be available on January 1st. So let's go ahead and shoot this thing, edit it really fucking quick so that we can get a trailer out on January 1st.
Yeah. Yeah, like, I don't know, if you have a genuinely good idea, it should play out. I just
Yeah.
feel like this is, how do I get attention? And
Yeah.
if you're looking for that extra attention, why not, like, do your best or show something off? This movie is just, all right, Mickey, because free copyright. Otherwise, here's a Dave and Buster's for 2 hours, and we're gonna have some weird, I don't know, cop drama thing in the background that really just doesn't matter.
Mhm.
Also, horror without gore or anything really scary.
Mhm.
Bad movie. Very, very low budget, but if you're going after those big Disney bucks,
Yeah,
um,
and I don't know exactly what happened, but they definitely got into some kinda legal trouble because this was Mickey's Mousetrap. And I know for a fact they were banking on doing exactly what Blood and Honey did. Theatrical release, Fathom event for like 2, 3 days, $20 per ticket, controversy sells, and that fucking mouse must have smacked their dick or something because they took Mickey out of the title completely and it just got dumped on VOD,
they had
which is where it belongs.
they had 2 opening crawls too. They had, like, that Spaceballs thing where it's
Oh, that was awful.
what
As soon as it started and it was Star Wars, I was like, "So we're just referencing Disney now?" And at this point, nobody really thinks classic Star Wars, and their mind goes, "Disney."
Right. But yeah, that was our worsts of the year. Before we
Mhm,
get to our bests, we can discuss some of our surprises, whether or not they were uh, positive surprises or negative surprises. I'll leave that to you. We'll do another 3 each. Um, I'll start it off, and Cody, I'll half give you credit. Well, I'll give you credit for it because I wouldn't have watched it otherwise. Um, but What You Wish For is
mhm.
a movie that, a VOD movie that, you tell it's not really a big budget movie. But I remember you suggesting it to me, and I ended up watching it. And for like 25 minutes, I was like, "The fuck does he want me to watch this for?" And like it just wasn't clicking for me. You know, it's just like, yeah, all right, guy in a rental home, and then something happens to kick off the second act, and it's like, oh, okay. And I know what I thought the thing was with the big first act, second act changeover, and it really wasn't. And very rarely do I get movies where, like, I'm just kinda like, "Eh," about it, and by the 3rd act, I'm like, "Where is this going? This is incredible." And it kind of pays off. And, What You Wish For, you know, r don't expect some sort of massive budgeted, CGI, whatever. It's very contained, but it's got a lot of bang for its buck. Pound for pound, I think it's a really, really good movie, and considering Nick Stahl is in it, like, I forgot he existed for a while.
Nice. Yeah, I haven't seen him forever. I have
Yeah.
to check that one out. It sadly did not make my list anywhere, so
You
No,
saw
that was,
600 movies and you didn't watch that one?
like I said, I got like 40 more that I still need to. There were a lot of Canadian ones that for some reason I couldn't see down here. I
Hmm,
still haven't seen, On the Shoulders of Kitties. I need to see that movie.
alright. Gray, do you wanna give us, a surprise? You can give us positive or negative.
Sure. Um, so you just gave a positive one. I guess let me follow up the positivity with a little bit more positivity.
Oh,
So yeah, I know, out of character for me, but yeah, let's keep this positivity flowing. So there's a movie that I thought there is zero shot that I will like this. I watched a trailer for it, and it's like, oh, that looks horrible. It was towards the end of the year. I usually don't like biopics, but I don't know. I thought I'd give it a try. I'd kind of heard a little rumbling about it, and I don't know. I didn't think I was into musicals, but as I look at my list this year, I've got way more musicals in the positive than I would have thought I did. So yeah, it really weirds me out that this is one of my better liked movies of last year. So yeah, I this is the biggest flop of this year, but it's
Oh,
called Better Man, and
oh,
it is weird as hell. I don't know if perhaps you know Robbie Williams because you have a little bit more tie to the UK,
oh, we get
but
that ad all the time here. All the time.
here I don't think anyone knows who the hell Robbie Williams is, and
Nope.
I think that leads to why this like $110 million movie has now made $10 million worldwide.
Yeah, and
It
9
deserves
of
so
it's
much more.
here.
Yeah, 1 million of it is here. I was part of that 1 million. What can I say? It's an amazing movie. Like I didn't know I knew practically nothing about Robbie Williams before seeing this movie, and when you hear it's a musical biopic that has a chimpanzee as like the main star, it sounds weird, but it is the guy who did The Greatest Showman. He knows what he's doing with musicals, and man, like my only prior knowledge of Robbie Williams is he has this old music video. I think it's called Rock DJ. It's kind of infamous because out of nowhere he just starts kind of pulling his muscles off, and man, it is kind of hard to forget, if you will.
Hmm.
That was my only knowledge of this dude going in, and man, it is such a moving movie. It's hard to say that with the star of a musical being a chimp, but man, this is way better than it deserves to be, and it deserves way more praise than it's currently getting, and way more people getting their eyes on it. If you haven't seen this, I'm pretty sure this is the last like weekend it'll be out there. So check it out. It's worth seeing. Even if you don't like musicals, man, this got me. So I wish better for it because it is going to be like the biggest flop of the year. Like I said, I think it's 110 million, and then they made like 10 million total in this. So it's not going well, but it is way better than it deserves to be.
Yeah, I agree. I am so not a musical person, and I was at Fantastic Fest, and this was one of the secret screenings. And so that twisted the knife even more because you go into these things and you're super pumped. You're like, is it Nosferatu? Is it Wolfman? What's it going to be? And this chick comes out with a big monkey hand. And I'm like, huh? And then even when she pitched it, she's like, this is a musical biopic about the UK pop star Robbie Williams, where he's played by a chimp. And I'm like, could you make this sound any less for me? And I'll be damned. It was really fucking enjoyable. I don't know Robbie Williams at all. I didn't recognize a single one of the songs. But and even the monkey thing, I was like, I don't know. Nobody addresses it. It's just he's just a character. Like it's not a plot point. It's nothing. And for me, it made his story a little more endearing because his story by itself is not the most interesting. It's like I was an asshole, and then I learned to not
Hmm.
be an asshole. And so whenever he's coked up and not having great relationships, when it looks like Caesar the ape, I'm like, oh, poor guy. You know what I mean? But the thing that's been weird about this is it's created one of the most bizarre conversations on Twitter where you have some people that are like almost shaming others for not seeing it. Like, how dare you not go see this? And then you have the opposite side of it of people who are like, why the fuck would they make the like angry that the studio even took a chance on it? And it's like, look, I know it's bizarre. It's a really hard sell and even harder sell in the US, but I don't want to
For
live in a
sure.
world where studios won't gamble 100 million on something like this.
Ye
And the fact that the same people, the same types of people that I see on film Twitter that get mad about everything being so samey and so just wash, rinse, repeat. You get something that's wildly unique like this, and they're like, I don't know who he is. I ain't seen that shit.
Very good point, Cody. Yeah, I agree with you
Well, and
wholeheartedly.
that's the thing though, like, it's not that unique. It is a story that you've seen before, like Rockstar takes
Very
fame,
much.
like,
Sure.
has addiction issues, sends
But
their
a
life into
chimp
shambles and then is able to kind of pick it up. Well, and that's the thing. The chat's
And the
pointing out,
visual
like, it sounds like
style.
a gimmick.
Mhm,
It is a gimmick, but man, it all works in a really weird way.
mhm.
I was not expecting to like it. I had all of those preconceptions, and man, it blew me away. It was the biggest surprise I had last year.
yeah,
Or I guess it was the beginning of this year, but
the biggest or the most noteworthy things I've seen being said on X is the biggest flop of the year so far. And I'm like, how many people were really anticipating this? And the year is 2 weeks old. You know how January is notorious for those blockbusters.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's exactly your point. Like it kind of like Furiosa last year. Granted, that's something it's a franchise, but people talk about how great these movies are. It's like, well, then go. Like, you want new ideas, go. Granted, again, Furiosa isn't that, but like, what? You're just going to family movies. Either shut the fuck up or go.
Yeah, it's frustrating being a part of that conversation all the
Mm,
time. Is I hate the people that sit. I don't hate the people, but
sure.
I hate the act of saying there's no original ideas anymore. And it's like, no, you just don't go see
Yeah,
them.
you're not looking.
And
Yeah.
when I tell you they're awesome, you don't watch the video because I don't look angry in the thumbnail. But if I tell you that, Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey 1 sucks, you're like, oh man, I want to see how bad it is. And it's like, motherfucker, what about the other one that I talked about? It was like 5 stars, bitch. I hate that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, dude, anger and drama sells, man. It's really
This movie's awesome. I'll wait. This
yeah.
movie sucks. Ooh, where's it at?
This movie failed. Oh, tell me about it. It failed, but
Uh,
you should see it. Cody, I think you're next.
Okay. So I'll do my 2 positives, and I'll end on the disappointing one then, so we can kinda change
Well,
it
we're
up.
going one at a time, but
Yeah, yeah,
oh,
yeah. On my most surprising list, my number 2 was a movie that I thought the trailers were awful. I think it was the worst marketed film of the year,
hmm,
and ended up being something that I highly enjoyed, which I did not expect, and that's Transformers 1.
huh.
I'm not really a big animated film guy, even though I see quite a few of them that I end up liking. I don't know why. Just something about being like, get off my lawn age, I guess, is just like it's a cartoon. But Transformers, I did not grow up with, so I don't have any nostalgia for it. I haven't seen it in years, but I like the first Michael Bay movie, not the sequels. I liked Bumblebee. I thought the one that came out last year, the Beast Wars one, was okay. So not really a Transformers guy either, but the trailers made this thing look just terrible. I was like, this is like goofy humor. Now they're animated. We're going back and doing an origin story. Like, who wants this? And it was bombing, but everybody was saying how good it was. So I had to go pick up my son from work, and I was like, fuck it, I'll just watch a movie until he's out. And went to go see this, and I was like, this is really fucking good. Why didn't they market it off of like the story here instead of the goofy ass jokes? Like, it's actually compelling how they become Transformers and how Optimus Prime and Megatron have this, very tight friendship that turns into enemies, and they have this huge rift, and it doesn't feel like it just happens in 1 second, like in the Mufasa movie. So I really, really enjoyed it. And when I got out of it, I was like, fuck, it sucks that this is bombing because this is like the Transformers franchise that would actually succeed. Like, this is the movie that we've been asking for, a Transformers movie that's actually starring the Transformers. That's a weird fucking concept, isn't it? So yeah, this is one that it was a bummer. It was a bummer how good it was because it flopped.
I love that. It sucks how good it was. Just a shame.
Yeah, I know.
um, all right, so I'll do another positive one, and
Oh,
it's not really kind of that stealth, but my expectations of this filmmaker have been kind of reduced over the last, I don't know, decade. Last year had something of a stinker, and I hadn't heard very good things. I saw this a little bit later than everyone, but Gladiator 2, I really had a good time with it. I was expecting to hate
Oh,
it, and after Napoleon, I'm like, "Oh, Ridley Scott just needs to stop. Just stop with this shit already." And I I don't know, did we need a sequel to Gladiator? No.
no.
Um, does it make it any worse? No. I I I just I don't know why I enjoyed it as much as I did. I think I was expecting pure Napoleon, like, dreck, just pure recent 15 years Ridley Scott garbage, and got, like, I don't know, the undercard to Gladiator. As long as you don't think of the original Gladiator to compare it to, you're all right. And I don't know.
kind of the problem though.
Yeah,
It's got
yeah,
it in the name.
sure, sure. Sure. Um, I think the fact that I was made aware of their little faux pas with the way they present a character in the movie, and the fact that I was, like, prepared for that made it a little bit easier for me to swallow. So perhaps if I
So
had
they treat something like a reveal that was
yes.
okay.
Yeah. So knowing that, I was like, all right, I can wrap my head around that." Because it is, it's again, there's no comparison. Like the reveal in Gladiator 1 is so much stronger, and even deep into the second and third act with, mini reveals after that in Gladiator 2. They had a little bit of punch, but Denzel Washington, um, I thought he was campy for a bit, and
Oh,
by
he was definitely having a good time that thought he was in a different movie than everybody else, but
yeah,
it kinda works.
right, by film's end, I'm like, "Oh, he he's kind of awesome." Like, this is he's campy, but it, like, totally fits. Like, right at the end when, a certain character is on a throne, I'm like, "Yeah, no, this is this movie. I'm okay with this. This is hysterical. This is a clown show." But, I mean, I'm not saying it's a, a five-star movie. I gave it 4 out of 5, but I expected this to be Drek, and that's the best for me when I expect something that's gonna be shit, and it's just like, "Oh, I was okay with that."
Hmm. I want to ruin this movie for you, really badly. I'm glad that you had that experience. I had the complete opposite one, and I love every one of the actors in this. Like Paul Mescal is great. He was in one of my favorite ones from last year, but just man, like trying to have him live up to anything that Maximus did. Again, you're saying not compared to that. Fair enough. If you're not comparing him to Russell Crowe, yeah, like it kind of works. But if you do in any way compare him to Maximus, like there's not one line that he says that is iconic, and there's still people who weekly quote to me Russell Crowe lines from that first one. Just man, there's something I can see why that one got so much praise, and people might say it's overpraised, like an Oscar for that. But I don't know, man. There's something about that first one that was just amazing. I was hoping that this could live up to it, and for me, it's not quite as close, but it is an enjoyable film. It is much better than a lot of the other ones on my
I
list. I can see
sorry, go
lowering
ahead.
your expectations. I can see why it would be
I
great.
think you were the canary in the coal mine for me too, where, like, I remember you being quite disappointed, and I was like, "Alright, so this is gonna suck," and thank you for that, by the way, I appreciate it, so I could enjoy it
Glad I could lower your expectations.
further.
I'm somewhere in the middle. I thought that, like, if you just watch it as a Gladiator movie, it's entertaining. If you
Sure,
watch it as a sequel to Gladiator, it's like, why? I don't wanna shut your brain off, dumb fun time as a follow-up to what I would call one of the best
sure,
movies ever
right,
made. So
right.
it just that's where my brain hurts sometimes when you see a lot of this silly shit.
Yeah, well, like,
And,
when people are like, "Oh, I hope you expect sharks in the movie," and I was like, "Okay, now I do." And then it's just like, "Yeah, of course there's sharks in this
yeah,
movie."
I had people arguing that in my comment section too. They're like, "If you look online, actually, historically," and I'm like, "Get the fuck out of here. Take you and Google and fuck off." But yeah, it's I don't know. Like I guess it was fine. Like it was fairly high up in my list. Where the fuck did I have it? Uh 65 out of 130. And so like and I was pretty positive on like the top 75 or 80. So yeah, it's a decent watch, but I'm still kind of on my downward slope with Ridley Scott.
Oh,
I think the only thing that he's made in the last 15 plus years that I really enjoyed is The Martian.
that before or after
Yeah, I think
Prometheus?
I'm right there.
Well, I'm not a Prometheus guy either, so
Yeah,
you and I don't agree on
yeah,
that one.
Prometheus is what, 12, so, 13 years for me, I guess.
Mhm.
Who's next?
Uh, I guess it would be me. So you did a negative. I probably shouldn't follow that with
No, that I did
Gladiator
a
2.
positive.
So,
I was positive.
oh yeah, sorry, you did a
I
positive
ex
that
I
I probably
expected
shouldn't
to
do
be
the
shit.
negative being Gladiator 2. So
He just
let me
hates
switch with a
Gladiator 2.
different
He's like, "Well, you did a negative." So
one. So I guess I'm gonna go with like my biggest disappointment. It was something that I was looking forward to that was a passion project again that somebody invested a ton of money into, and nothing kind of worked out. It's probably not the one you think it is.
Mhm.
So Horizon, colon, an
Oh.
American Saga dash chapter one. Um, so it sucks. I wanted to like this so much, and there's so much beauty captured on the actual screen, but
Mhm.
man, it is not a complete story. It feels like you're watching 2 episodes of some show. It's like 3.5 hours. It's kind of a lot to get through.
Doesn't even
That
feel
being
like a
s
full first act.
Mm.
No, and it does the most egregious thing. So, yes, 100%. It doesn't feel like a full there is no closing to this. It's just one event kind of ends and then, "Hey, next time on," which is the oddest way that I've ever seen to, like, end a movie as kind of an advertisement for some that was originally supposed to come out, like, 2 months after this. So,
Mhm.
I don't know if you really needed that whole next time on thing, but it turns out there isn't gonna be a next time in the immediate future. I really hope that he does get to turn this out at some point. I think it was supposed to be 4 of them, so even if he gets out the next one, I still not sure that that's gonna be a complete story or anything like that. A lot of what it teased now, we're not there in the timeline yet, and just man, I wanted to like this. He's kind of harkening back to, like, a John Ford style of Western, and it looks gorgeous. Just, man, the story is not there for me. It doesn't feel like it's any sort of complete story, and it's really sad because I don't know if we're ever gonna get that. If we do, it definitely will not be on the same scale that this one was on, which will definitely be jarring. It would have been really cool if they had given him, like, a Yellowstone type deal and just, we got, like, some weekly episodes of this. I think that would have been awesome to see this story. I do wanna know how it's gonna conclude, but I don't think we're ever gonna get that, and, sadly for me, this was kind of the biggest disappointment. It was the one that I was really looking forward to, and just I am not really happy with what we ended up with.
As much as I think, uh, you know, people need to be creative and something resembling original, they need to go back to the original filmmaking style and just make a movie. And if it works, if you want to have a plan in your back pocket for the future, if things work, start doing that. But this, here's part one of six. Like, dude, it doesn't work. Marvel is starting to learn the hard way that you can't make movies like that. And the chickens are coming home. And I feel bad that especially considering I think, uh, Gibson, he put all of his money behind
Costner.
it. What'd I say, Gibson?
Mhm.
Yeah, Kevin Costner put all of his him too, he was a silent partner.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
He was the Hollywood ambassador for it. Yeah, this one was frustrating in a lot of ways because, like, I kind of figured what kind of movie it was going to be when I knew it was a part 1 and it was still over 3 hours. When I went to
Mhm.
see this, I would think I was the only person in the theater under 80. And, like you said, it's like it's gorgeously shot. There's moments there where you're like, "Ooh, okay, cool." But I mean, it's 3 plus hours and it feels like you're barely even through the first act of a story. Like, I don't know what the conflict is. I don't know what we're heading towards. There's like 5 different groups of people, and I have no inclination to know when or where they're going to intersect. And then, yeah, you see the little like next time on, and you see some shootouts and stuff, and you're like, okay, cool. And then they pull it from the release, and this is supposed to be a 4-part thing that he quite literally quit Yellowstone unceremoniously because he wanted to make this. And like I was a big Yellowstone fan. I still haven't watched the final season of it yet. I already know what happens, but that sucks where it's like, damn, you had this like this highlight of your career project where like a whole generation now loves you and knows you for this character, and you said, "Fuck that! I want to go do this thing," which cool. I again support your passion. Like I love the fact that Kevin Costner can make something like this.
Mm.
I don't want to live in a world where he
Mhm.
can't, but it's still you see things like this, and you just got to wonder. It's the same with like Francis Ford Coppola and Megalopolis. It's like I get it. You want to do something, you want to get your creativity out there, but like it's like you guys got too much money or something. Like the fact that you're just like, fuck it, let's just dump all this money into this, and anybody will tell you you're not going to get a return. It
Look at
was
him.
no surprise
He's
at all
too
this thing
old.
bombed. And so, well, it's just a westerns are not blockbusters.
Not now, they're
So when
not.
you give it a blockbuster budget and expectations, it's like, what the fuck did you expect? So yeah, I don't know. I know the second one shot. I don't know what the status of 3 and 4 are, but it's going to
I
be this
mean, some of
weird
it's shot
thing. Yeah.
So from what I heard, like I heard an interview with Giovanni Ribisi, who apparently isn't even in 2, but we saw glimpses of him on the coming up thing. So
Mhm.
I don't know if that means that they've shot 3 or parts of 3 because we definitely see him in it. So I don't know. But you're relying on like 4 movies to be blockbusters to kind of make your money back on this.
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm not sure how that quite worked out
And I
or
remember
how he thought that would work out.
either reading or watching an interview where Costner was full on like, "I'm not worried about being like a blockbuster right now. Like, this is a movie that's gonna have its legacy later on, that people are gonna discover it." And, like, again, I respect that, but, where does the finances fit into that? We're just gonna lose our ass for 4 movies and hope for the best in the future? Like, it's just such a weird thing where you wanna champion the creative, and at the same time, you're like, "Are you high? What are you doing?"
Yeah. Um, Cody, did you give your next one?
I did not.
Okay.
Okay, so we're doing the negative one now. So I would
It,
my most
it's your
disappointing
choice.
film of the
I think that was
year.
just
It's
me.
fine. It's fine. I'll go with
Okay.
the flow.
Okay, grouch. Just be a grouch.
Speaking of bullshit, my most disappointing movie of the year was Trap.
Shit.
Trap Trap felt like a movie that was going to be such an easy win
Mhm.
because M. Night, despite his varying degrees of quality, he seems to do best when it's smaller concepts and not these like really wide or wild, bold ideas. And Trap felt like as simple of an idea as you could get. Concert, they're trying to find a serial killer. Our protagonist is the killer. Go. And I love Josh Hartnett. I always have. I've been waiting for him to have like a resurgence. So this really felt like the time was now, and the trailer looked great. And so, there was people that were wondering like, why'd they give away the twist? And I'm like, well, clearly that's just the setup of the movie. I don't know if there'll be another twist, but I didn't feel it was a spoilery trailer. Nonetheless, I couldn't stand the experience of this movie. Like it turned into just such a frustrating watch because while there's still like there's some fun to be had with it, but it relies so heavily on absolute bullshit to get from one scene to the next, to the next, to the next, to the next, and it gets worse and more egregious as the movie goes on. Where some people have, again, like one of the movies I was talking about earlier, have kind of like embraced it as a schlock fest, as so bad that it's good. Cool. I'm glad you had that experience. I couldn't get there. I was just getting actively angry and annoyed as the movie went on. Where like I can tolerate a little bit of that. Like some bullshit happens so that he can keep going. Otherwise, the movie be 20 minutes long. Okay, cool.
My,
But
sorry,
go
my
ahead.
my issue with some of the things, especially on like Twitter and shit, is like, no, it's like that on purpose.
Oh yeah.
It's like, no,
I
it's not.
got
Get the
so
fuck
much
out of here.
shit for this movie. There was like 3 things in a row within a month that I was like the Twitter enemy number 1 for, and this was one of them. And yeah, I get all that too, where it's just like, okay, if you like it, you can just say that you like it. You don't have to make up bullshit
Yeah.
to discredit everybody else.
It's supposed to be bad on purpose.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I mean you could just take any individual thing and actually like describe it, and it's like that sounds horrible, and it's like, yeah, that's one of like 19 things in a half an hour. You got the whole thing where he's in the limo with the pop star
Oh.
in the back, and there's fans surrounding it, and then he doesn't have the door locked, so she just gets out and runs away, and then she's like, "Hey, the killer is fucking in there," and then he just teleports into the crowd in a
He's
new
got
set
a
of
hat and a
clothes.
jacket.
Yeah, he's got a hoodie. Come on, the
Yeah,
hoodie.
yeah, exactly, and, you got that, you got the whole explanation that we get from his wife. I was just like, "Go fuck yourself with this," like, I had a suspicion because of you were out late a lot that maybe, just maybe a 1% chance that you were this killer. So what I did was I followed you to this empty building, but there was nothing there. So I just left. I wanted to call in an anonymous tip, but I didn't want the cops to know it was me just in case it was wrong. So what I do is I cut the corner of this ticket off and I left it in the empty building so that the cops would find it, and then they would probably seize the entire venue at the concert and maybe 1% chance find you there if you are the killer, and you wouldn't get like, it's like, what the fuck is this? And so just my blood is boiling now just talking about it, where yeah,
Dude,
it
when he
there's many issues with it, but that's the biggest thing for me, where it was just like, dude, like I can only tolerate so much. and this is just straight bullshit
When
for
he
the entire second 2/3.
when he picks up the bike at the end and they just let him, I'm like,
Just let him.
I'm like, get directly the fuck out of here with that
Yeah.
shit. No way.
Exactly.
Well, okay. So this film is all going to hinge on this pop star, right? So have we considered casting M. Night's daughter? You know how good he is at acting. So, the apple doesn't fall far from the tree.
And I'll say she's a
Uh,
talented singer. That's not my type of music, but when they make her act in the third act, it's like, why did you do this to her? No. Everybody on my Instagram live, I'm in the bathroom and it's the butcher's house. I need to help find a person.
Yeah,
And that whole fucking thing. Like she's in the bathroom and she's about to end his life in seconds with the click of a fucking button. And he's just like, hey, let me in. Let me in, please. And I'm like, dude. And I've had people explain, well, he didn't want to bust down the door because then his family would know who he is. Well, if the fucking cops show up, they're gonna find out too.
Was it definitely her phone? I thought he took her phone away and then she used the daughter's
She used
phone.
his.
Yeah, so
Or,
how
yeah,
does she sign
whatever it
into her fucking TikTok on his phone? That takes a second, doesn't it?
Charles, she knows her password.
Yeah, I don't know.
Fair enough.
I don't
Yeah, I have no clue. But you'd still have to download the app. You'd still like.
It's
I don't
going
know.
to take a second.
It feels a
or
little
two.
too convenient.
Can you verify that? Send it to your cell phone number.
I got a text. Just give me the 3-digit code, please.
It does have one sequence that is kind of a guilty pleasure of mine, though. The really weird interaction that he has with the merchandise guy. I don't know why it's like fisheye lensed and just like super strange. Like it feels very surreal, and for some reason, that's the only part of the movie that I like.
Yeah, those.
Hey, we got this whole operation. That butcher, that guy that mutilates people, he's in here. But you seem cool after 5 minutes, so let me take you behind the scenes.
The entire FBI is here. I know you for 14 seconds. I'm going to give away the whole plan.
Who's this stranger on the roof that we're staking out? Oh, I forgot my ID. It's okay, sir. Go back down and enjoy the concert. Maybe this is a good, like, watch it and roast it type movie. I just need to watch it with some friends and just, like, fucking bitch the entire time. But in the theater by myself, I was like, fuck you.
Yeah. I just, for the record, this was my disappointing. But the whole, it's crappy and weird like that on purpose. I don't buy that as an excuse because I don't know. I feel like if you're trying to be ridiculous, you should lean harder, if that.
Yes.
Yeah.
It was like this for me. I before I saw it, I said, like, I hope this isn't going to be like some backdoor sequel to The Unbreakable again, or like some weird twist where it seems grounded, but it's going to end up being otherworldly. And about 2/3 of the way through the movie, I was like, this better have a fucking twist where this is like a backdoor thing for Unbreakable, and he's got like powers where he can like make shit happen, because this is fucked.
Yeah. It's weird because he's a good filmmaker.
He still could tie it in with Unbreakable. You never know.
Sure.
We'll see.
Sure. Some fan fiction will probably glue it all together. All right. So, Cody, no. Cody took my negative. I guess I'll pivot to a positive surprise.
You only had one negative from last.
Well, I decided to do two negatives or two positives and a negative. I mean, do I want to pick on Subservience? Because I didn't really expect much from it. I mean, Megan Fox playing a robot. I mean, made for the
Didn't you
role.
rank it pretty high though? Wasn't it like high 50s or something?
Subservience is 68 out of 100.
Better than I thought.
So what's a movie that you expected a lot out of that ate shit?
Back to Black, the Amy Winehouse movie. I mean, only because the documentary was so good. I don't know if you've seen the Amy documentary from 2020, 2015, 2016. Anyway,
Not.
all you have to do is dramatize that documentary, and you've got a good movie. So Amy Winehouse's father is a producer for this film, Do you wanna take a wild guess at who's presented in a warm fashion? Even though he
Papa?
yeah, basically fucking drove her
Huh.
into the ground with her career and didn't really help her with, her drugs and so on and so forth.
Kinda
Um,
like how every member of Queen
yeah,
except for Freddie was awesome.
sure, sure. It's Bohemian Rhapsody except for Amy Winehouse. And again, if you want to have some sort of reminder about Amy Winehouse, watch the documentary titled Amy because it somehow dramatically and emotionally delivers far more than Back to Black, and that was kind of frustrating. On the flip side, I'll say something like Daddy-O. I didn't expect a thing from that. It's just two people. That's where I was thinking of Mel Gibson before, by the way. Uh, Mel Gibson and Dakota Johnson herself. It's not Mel Gibson, is it?
Isn't it Sean Penn? Yeah, I
It
was like, is this a bit? I mean, good flick. I don't
Look,
disagree with
did
you.
you see Monster Summer? Because if you did, we can actually talk about Mel Gibson's work
Eventually,
this
I'll
year.
get to Mel
Just
Gibson.
pivot.
Sean Penn, Mel Gibson, Kevin Costner, same shit. They're all the same. Well, anyway, just a cab ride from JFK to the city where they're just talking. And again, another actor where this year had a terrible movie in Madam Web, but Dakota Johnson in this Daddy-O movie, don't expect anything. This is like a really decent rental because not much happens. It's just two people talking and a cab driver and a guarded young lady, and they discuss things. And it's I didn't expect anything from it, but I was captivated with just a cab ride. Uh, and
Hmm.
yeah, Mel Gibson should be in that movie, though. That's
It's the only thing that could have improved it. Yeah, I ended up liking this one too. I think you kind of turned me on to it. You're like, yeah, it's a good flick. Not a lot happens, and you're right. But man, it was really captivating. It was better than I thought it would be. It basically is just a cab ride. It's kind of a stage play, but
Yeah.
man, I think I liked it way more than I should have. I watched another Sean Penn one this year. This is the one I'd recommend. It's worth seeing.
Are you sure it wasn't Mel Gibson?
I haven't seen any of his for a while, but I'm looking forward to the next one.
If you want to be reminded that Dakota Johnson can act, this is a great palate cleanser from Madam Web, and I'm being sincere when I say that because she actually is quite good in this movie.
I second it. It's also my Dakota Johnson one of the year. I would go with that one.
What is your last of our surprises, Gray?
Ooh, okay. Do I want to be positive? Yeah, I guess I'll be positive.
Boo.
Um, okay. Oh, I can
No,
be
no, no,
negative.
no, no, no.
Yeah, so I guess I'll go positive. So there was one other one that I kept hearing like the rumbling about that this is gonna suck and it's completely controversial and basically everything under the sun. And I fully expected to hate this one, but somehow I don't. It really connected with me. And again, I don't know, it's a weird year for me because my list seems to be like full of musicals, which is really odd. So I fully expected to hate Joker Folie à Deux.
Wow.
I heard every bit of negativity towards it. I didn't really appreciate the first one. Like, I don't hate the first one, but I felt, I've seen this before, and it was done better. And this isn't Joker. This is Travis Bickle. And that was basically my criticism of the first one. The second one is something that I haven't seen before, and they seem to be confirming my problems with the first one. They seem to be saying, yes, he is not. A lot of people hate that. And I think it's one problem that you run into when you leave an ending somewhat ambiguous. Like, there's a few of them this year that are a little bit ambiguous. If they make a sequel to them, I think it's going to make it way more polarizing. A lot of people can very easily interpret that, okay, this is going to be the Joker. And they're quite plainly saying, no, he's not. That's a very easy interpretation to make, the way that they kind of set that up at the end. But man, it really worked for me in a weird way.
Hmm.
Of course, it is, you get a $1 billion movie, and yes, you're going to automatically sign a blank check for the sequel. Apparently, there were a lot of interesting choices made for this. It is essentially like improv jazz. They did not have anything blocked out or anything like that. They just wanted to go and record it live. They had like a pianist who was going ahead and setting the tempo while they were live, and then they just recorded the vocals live. It's unlike any other musical I've seen in that aspect. Every other one, you take it to the studio, you actually get a corrected, interesting, perfect version of it. That's not what we have here. They're like almost flawed versions of each song, and man, it's interesting. I was not expecting to like this nor have it affect me in the way that it has, and I totally hear everyone's criticism with it. That they're basically shitting on the fans. I I don't agree with that criticism. I can definitely hear why people are saying that because yeah, it isn't supporting the very easy conclusion to come to that, this is Joker. Just kidding. I don't think that's what he was trying to say in that first one. So I have a slightly different take on it. Uh, I have a video that's being made for way too long. That's taking way too long. One day I hope to expand upon this, but needless to say, I was really surprised. I expected going in, I'm going to hate this thing. It's really going to suck. I'm not a huge fan of the first one, and I was pleasantly surprised. I was not expecting to like it, but here we are. Maybe it's your Gladiator 2 situation, Charles. My expectations were rock bottom, but I don't know. It just seems to answer every one of the problems that I had in the first one in the way that they're doing it. And yeah, I can see the reason for all these songs, but yeah, everything in the advertising leading up to it where I hear like it's going to be a musical, they're saying it's not a musical, but it's kind of a musical. That rubbed me the wrong way. I was not
Me too.
expecting to like this thing, and somehow it worked for me. But I understand I'm in the extreme minority on this, and everybody else universally hates this.
I
So,
appreciate the
enough.
unpopular take, Gray, but at the same time, to kind of, I don't know, I guess push back a little bit. If this movie were trying to have it be not the Joker, why did they add so many?
Money.
Sure.
Uh,
Well, like if
I think that's the only reason why you'd make it, because if not, wouldn't you just say, "Hey, I want to remake Taxi Driver
that,
or King of Comedy"?
but yeah, that's fair. They get their blank check. But why
Mhm.
have Harvey Two-Face in there? Why have it be Harley Quinn?
Why have Lee?
Yeah, like
Because it's that world. It's the same thing, but you're right. It feels like they're trying to have their cake and eat it too by
yeah.
bringing in Lee, by bringing in Harvey Dent and having him get soot on his face where it looks like maybe he's going to become Two-Face. It's a good point. They're writing this line, and really it is a cash grab with using these characters in a essentially King of Comedy script
Mm.
world that has nothing to do with superheroes. There's a really cool way that you could have done it, and I like the way that Penguin did it, where it is in the world of superheroes, but you're not necessarily seeing superheroes. This was a completely different thing. He's going, there are no superheroes, and it's very easy to understand that this should be a world of superheroes. You have Bruce Wayne in it. You have the Joker. Obviously, he becomes the Joker. He takes up that moniker. So why isn't he a superhero? Why isn't he part of this comic book world? But I don't think that world was ever meant to be. I think it was just a cynical way to get people's eyes on this human, whatever you want to call it, character dissection.
It's interesting because I really didn't want to like the original Joker and did, or maybe I appreciated it not as much as I liked it, and then here this time around it's just like what did you do? Why did you what happened? I was kind of interested in this and you totally took a left turn.
Yeah. Well, and they
Makes me
kind of
think
sold it
Tommy
as an
Boy with
origin
the little
story.
roll. He's like, I take my little pet.
Well, and I
Somebody call
totally
the
get why
meat
people
wagon.
feel like he. I get why everyone's saying like he's basically giving the middle finger to fans of the first one. Even if you watch like behind the scenes things, he said essentially you can plug any of your Batman stories into this. This is Joker, and he seems to have changed his mind. So I could definitely understand why people feel like he has turned his back on them. In a way, he did, but it works for me.
I appreciate it, Greg. It's an extremely unpopular take, so you can't really be accused of grifting with that.
Very unpopular.
And please get that video out because I'm curious.
I will. It's taken way too long. I thought I'd go through all the criticism, and then man, I've got like 1,000 hours of criticism that I've watched. So yeah, I need to get that out. It's not going to be a long video, but man, it's taking its time.
Just don't tell Rudy or Brian.
Fair enough.
Cody.
Most surprising film of the year, and if I'm not mistaken, I think Gray is going to disagree hard on this one. Speak No Evil.
Ooh.
This is one I expected to be dog shit. For many reasons. One, like I'm not a fan of the original film, and that's part of the reason why I have kind of, I wouldn't say I'm a unique. I think there's a lot of people that like it, but why I have the opinion that I do. I think it's well made, and it's definitely more gripping, more impactful, maybe more interesting than the American remake, but I just can't enjoy that movie on any level. And I just don't like my experience with it.
Mhm.
So when I saw that, the movie made me angry. And then like less than a year later, it's like Blumhouse is doing a remake, and I'm like, fucking movie's like 8 months old, and they speak English. Like it's a Danish movie, but they like
Yeah.
there's a couple subtitle scenes, but they speak English.
Yeah.
That's the one barrier that I always understand in American remake, is that a lot of people don't like watching subtitles.
Right.
I used to be one of them. So all of that added together, I'm like, really quick remake, Americanized, and Blumhouse is doing it. This is gonna suck ass. And I thought the trailers were awful, especially since they were just giving away everything left and right, like Blumhouse trailers do. And with the year that Blumhouse was having, after I called it the Blumhouse Blunder trilogy, Night Swim, Imaginary, Afraid. I was like, this
Ooh.
thing has no shot. And then when I saw it, I was like, son of a bitch. I like that better than the original. That was actually really good. I thought James McAvoy was awesome in it. I thought Mackenzie Davis was really good. I didn't necessarily think they needed to lean so hard on making her the hero and her husband such a fucking useless pussy. I think you could have balanced that out a little bit more. But and it's not like a woke thing. It's just like you're like purposely making him an idiot. I can't root for him. Yeah, even whenever he jumps out of the closet and he just like stumbles like a fucking Looney Tunes cartoon. I'm like, come on, man, that was your moment to fucking redeem yourself. Um, I like the fact the third act goes in a wildly different direction, because I think it makes the remake experience better. You can like the original, and then you can go this other route and have like an alternate universe take to it. It's definitely Americanized. It's
Mhm.
definitely more action thriller by the end of it. I would even say the movies, I would categorize this as a thriller, where I would hardcore categorize the original as horror.
Yeah,
So I get all the reasons why everybody who prefers the original and maybe doesn't appreciate this one feels that way. But for me, as somebody that could not appreciate the first one for my own reasons, this is a version of the story that I really enjoyed. And I rewatched it at home and had a really good time with it. You'll appreciate this, Charles. So we were watching it with Riley, because I knew that this wasn't like too intense for her. I
Jesus.
couple of scenes, I was like, okay, go away. Whenever like they have the dinner and he does the under the table thing, I was like, all right, go upstairs for a minute. But whenever she thought the kids were something was gonna happen, like she was like, I don't like this. Like, no, I don't. And she's seen a
Oh,
lot of horror flicks, so it wasn't like I was traumatizing her, but she was just not having it. And then
Runs the family.
the second that you get to the scene where the kid has the rock, something happens, and my daughter, like, it's dead silent. My daughter just goes, "This is a good movie."
Well, I'd
Whoa.
recommend not showing her the original then, for
Yeah.
sure.
Oh no,
I think you
no,
made the right
never.
choice there.
No,
mm.
no. But it was just hilarious how her tone shifted. As soon as there was justice, she was like, "This is a good movie."
Cody, as far as your discomfort is concerned, were you all right with, like, the dance sequence when James McAvoy was losing his shit?
Yeah. I mean, I can handle
You
all
were
that just
comfortable?
fine.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, it's uncomfortable, of course, but it wasn't like I was, "Oh, I can't watch this." Like, to me, it was just the way that it ends. Like, just
Okay.
certain ways. Yeah, just that's my one, like, emotional trigger, and sometimes it people can kinda call it out where, like, it doesn't quite make sense what things that bother me and what things don't. It's all about the tone.
Mhm.
Like, I can watch Terrifier 3, not be bothered at all, because that movie is just ridiculous and silly. But this, when you get to the end and something happens, it's just like, "You motherfuckers, like, it's all your fault. You had millions of opportunities to get her out of there." And I just get angry.
Yeah, I get it. We all have weird hang-ups. Like mine is
Mhm.
animals. Like I don't know why, but like just anytime I see something happening to an animal, it just
Yeah.
I guess that's a lot of people's. Like there's the whole book. Like if you want to make someone kill the cat, you're going to make them hate that character.
Mhm.
Um, but man, just it feels like they even took out like the titular reason for this. Even with the beefy McAvoy. Uh, I feel like it kind of got the vanishing treatment, which is that like make a Hollywood version of it. But
Yeah, and it's fair.
still, it's it's not a bad remake or version of it, but man, it just and I was very late to this. I watched the first one and then immediately went into the other one in the theater. So it's not like I had this one like love for it or anything like that. It just feels like the other one has so much more bite to it, teeth, if you will, and just
Emily didn't hate it, and she has yet to watch the original, so it'll be interesting
mm,
because she
I
thought
would
that
definitely want to hear.
yeah, she thought the ending was a little she was conflicted about the ending. I'm like, "Oh, if you're conflicted about this ending."
It hits hard.
Yeah.
Emily hates happiness. Oh, they survive?
Yeah, there's weird things where she gets hung up on, and it's just like, "Wait, what? Why?
I know. I'll
What?"
never forgive her for Die Hard.
Dude dude,
The first one?
I have to sneak watching Dark Knight Rises because she laughs like it's a fucking Eddie Murphy bit every time Bane
Mhm.
talks, and I'm like, "Can you not ruin this for me,
My
please?"
wife's version of that is she has specific actors and actresses that she hates for no reason, just doesn't like the way their face is or whatever, and I cannot get through a movie if that person shows up in the cast because she will just remind me every time they're on screen what bothers her. Like, she despises Nicolas Cage, Uma Thurman, what's another? There's like 5 or 6 actors where I just know if they're in the cast, I'm like, "Fuck, I'm not watching this with you in the house
Oh,
'cause
Jennifer
you'll fucking
Aniston with her
ruin it."
tits is in this?
Yeah. I was watching Paycheck with Ben Affleck, like, it was, like, the most random fucking thing to be watching, and Uma Thurman pops up, and she's like, "Ugh," and I'm like, "Fuck, here we go." I made it through, like, 20 minutes, and I was like, "Watch something else. Fuck it. Forget it."
All right, so that's our surprises.
Mhm.
Now to our top 3. May shake around for the sake of duplicates, but, um, I'm going to open with my 3rd favorite film of the year, and it's
Ooh,
The Substance,
Mm.
the
ooh.
Corley Forget film that is kind of uh, a bit of a hot front runner right now, which
It's
if
awesome.
if that thing wins some Oscars, I'm jazzed up about it.
Mhm.
But, wild movie that, eh, I don't know, for those of you who thought Barbie was just a little too positive last year and you wanted a little more bite to it, I give you The Substance. Cronenberg presents Barbie.
Mhm.
Um, it's wild. It's gorgeous. It you know, the subtext is rather easy to interpret, and um I I I I try to call it something like if you took Barbie and Requiem for a Dream and put them in a blender, uh, and this is your movie. I can imagine people really not having a good time with this because there are certain things. The body horror kind of amps up in the third act, but I feel like it's earned. I don't know about you guys if you've seen. I know you have, Cody. I don't know if you've seen it, Gray, but I feel like
Oh, yeah.
it's definitely earned. And
So earned.
yeah, I mean the Foley work right down to like when Dennis Quaid is eating the shrimp and it's just like the close ups on his fucking lips, just it's like, oh man, you're hideous. Um, it's just it's a full experience, um, and I love it. I I'm not really a big body horror guy, but um, I'm all about it. I keep meaning to watch Revenge, but I'll get to it eventually. I promise.
Yeah, The Substance was a big surprise. Like, In my top 5, like, my 2 through 5, you could pretty much just shuffle, like,
Mhm.
they're all kinda tied for 2nd, and so Substance was my number 5 of the year, but, this was a movie I didn't really know anything about. It's a shame that there wasn't, like, a lot of early buzz or anything about it because it would have been a really nice addition to that 31 that we just did,
It's a
but none of us
shame no
knew it.
one tried to suggest it, huh?
Way fucking late, and this was after you suggested it after we had, like, 7 addendums to whatever we were doing, and it was just like, "Fuck, this is it, final, right here."
Well, that and Nosferatu really kinda threw a monkey wrench in
Yeah,
it.
that kinda fucked it around too, and yeah, never mind, going on a tangent.
Sorry.
The Substance was funny for me because I was at Fantastic Fest at the time this dropped, and everything that I put out for that first week, everybody just not everybody, but the most popular comment I was getting was, "What about the Substance?" And it was starting to piss me off because like I was doing all this work and doing interviews and I was seeing Terrifier 3 at its world premiere. I think I was the first review dropped on YouTube.
It
Like I
wasn't
checked.
there, right?
No, it
Substance
wasn't there.
wasn't
It was just
right,
it was
right.
just playing in
I
theaters.
remember that,
And
yeah.
so I remember I dropped the Terrifier 3 review and it was like, "This is gonna fucking kick ass." And I just kept getting comments is like, "When are you gonna review the Substance?" I'm like, "Son of a bitch, they don't want anything." And so we and Sean ended up leaving to go see the Substance. I knew nothing about it other than Demi Moore and body horror. And it's a nice one to walk into blind. Uh,
Mm, mm,
the best body horror movie that's been made in my lifetime. And like you said, it's a movie that's like it's not subtle at all with what it's trying to say, but it doesn't feel like it's bashing you over the head with
right.
it. It's like this is what the movie's about. Now let's go. And they explore it in different ways. You got the body horror side of it, you got the way that they do certain shots, and you have that whole sequence with Demi Moore in the mirror where she's getting ready for that date and losing her shit.
Yeah.
And it's just got a little bit of everything for everybody. It's got the body horror for the gore hounds, but it's got great storytelling for everybody that wants that. It's got amazing cinematography and a bunch
Mm,
of Kubrick throwbacks for all of those horrors like Brian. And so it's yeah, like you said, it was a full experience that I think it's the most memorable movie of 2024, whether it's your number 1 or not. It's the movie
yeah.
that horror will
For sure.
remember, especially if it wins Oscars. It's gonna be fucking
Sure.
awesome.
Sure.
Hopefully it does.
Mhm.
I
Demi
know
got my
Margaret
vote for
Qualley.
the Critics' Choice Award, so we'll see.
Mhm. Margaret Qualley just kind of got snubbed at the BAFTA nomination, so I hope she gets one, possibly for her role because man, she also goes for it. But
Mhm.
everyone seems to be recognizing Demi, which is awesome. Like,
She won the
hell yeah,
Globe.
I'm glad that. Yeah, I'm hoping that that leads to the Oscar as well, but
Mm,
we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure that they are getting a nomination at least, which at least bodes well for horror. It
mhm.
hopefully will pave the way to actually be taken seriously because man, there's so much you can do in that genre, and I think this movie just shows that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
It's one of the recurring gripes that I saw, this is a couple months ago now, before it, like, got really serious award buzz, was why don't they establish where the substance is coming from? Who's renting that room out? And it's just like, dude, why does that matter to you? What is the business that's providing the fucking green liquid?
The
How does that
the
make you
only
feel better?
the only part of the movie I called bullshit on and I just immediately let it go is that she builds that immaculate trap door for the fucking bathroom. I was like, "Get out of here." But anyway, I moved past it very quickly. I'm like, "Okay, it's
Yeah.
fiction."
Yeah, yeah, like,
Fictional
I
character.
if you're hung up on certain things, it's just like, dude, you don't wanna watch this. Y it that that
Mhm.
that's it. Sorry, Gray. Your 3rd favorite.
Okay, so I'm kind of cheating on my list. I happened to see Cody's video the other day where he kind of went through his, and it seemed like he excluded a certain movie because it's really 2023. So I'm going to go along with that. So sadly, Strange Darling won't make an
Oh,
appearance on my list, but
Oh,
because of that, that's going to move one up. But yeah, so my number three now becomes one of my favorite musicals of the year.
how many
I think
musicals
there's
have
a
you
lot of
seen?
if you saw
this
if you
year.
saw Strange Darling when it was released in 2023, I don't think there's anything wrong with talking about it this year. It's
We're
just
gonna
one
be
of those
talking about
weird.
it, Cody. Don't
Yeah,
don't you
it's one of
worry.
those weird
That
fucking
was
things where even sometimes they'll premiere at film festivals and they won't use that
Yeah.
year. It's always confusing for me.
Yeah, like Coffee Tables
yeah.
2022, but it really isn't.
Yeah, yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
So I think I could put that on this, but I kind of figured it was going to be covered, and I figured we covered it kind of extensively on Charles's channel.
Mhm.
So I wanted to talk about another one that I think you guys didn't appreciate nearly as much as I did. That is, if you're into musicals, I'm not sure,
Already
but
talked about Joker.
it's one of my other favorite musicals of the year, and I think it parallels very close to something that we've talked about. So for me, Smile 2 is my number 3 now. Now that Strange Darling's not on the list.
What
Um,
the fuck is that?
so Smile 2, it affected me way more than I think it affected you guys, and it did it in such a positive way. I think I'd consider this a musical. There's like 6 pieces that not only have dance numbers, but do have the music also in this. And man, the fact that it is like this, it is kind of this pop star thing as well that shows many performances. I think this effectively captures it so much better than, say, Trap or even the other aforementioned one, Dear Santa, who also had a weird concert thing. Uh, Granted, that's not a huge bar to overcome, but I at least
You have a
bought
very
it.
weird
And then,
categorization system.
hey, there were a lot of like live action shot from a pop star's perspective, at least scenes.
Mhm.
I don't know. This one worked the most out of a bunch of them that I
Okay.
saw this year. So I don't know. This one, it really worked on every single level. Naomi Scott's amazing portrayal as not only this horribly tormented, horribly just scarred character. It really worked for me. And then the fact that you put her as a pop star, I'm buying that. This is my favorite role that I've seen her in so far. And man, the soundtrack to this, it just it hits. And I don't know why. I didn't think that I would like pop from a horror film, but man, this works for me. And then when you add in that like 10-minute one shot at the beginning, it is just
Mm.
they're pulling some really amazing tricks, and I think that's my favorite Gallner performance for a long time. Like everything that he did there was live and in the one shot. I think right as they go out the window happened to be the only cut, but he did his own stunt work, which means he had to fly out that window and then like land on his back, get up, and then the thing. But man, it really worked for me. And then when I'm thinking of the other images, so you mentioned the substance, and like those images will stick with you.
Mhm.
Man, that hallway scene with all the dancers, I can't really get that out of my
It's
head. And
creepy.
there's a couple other ones. There's a couple other ones that really stick with me. It's kind of like Trap again, where he's talking to like the merch salesman. But man, when she's at the signing, just the little girl's weird smile, the smile from like the weird stalker guy, a lot of it just really works for me.
Mm.
And maybe I heard the criticism that like, not all this works, and there at sometimes you can't tell what's real, what's not. That just like harken back to the original one to me. It did very much the same thing.
Mm.
Just I don't know, it worked so much more effectively for me. And granted, yes, they telegraphed the ending, and there is kind of only one way that this thing can end. I understand if you don't like it. It's definitely been done before. It's not the first time, essentially, a disease that gets transmitted that way or a curse that gets transmitted that way. How do you mass communicate this? It makes sense. So yeah, I get people's criticism on that, but man, it really worked for me. I think this was previously my favorite musical of the year, but I think the other ones have crept up a little bit. But
Mm.
for me, number 3, Smile 2. I think you guys liked it a lot less than me.
Yeah,
You're
that's fair to
correct.
say. Yeah, yeah, the Warner, the Gallner Open, great.
Mhm.
Um, then it just shouldn't make sense after that because it technically doesn't. Um,
Oh, but it does. It's touch, man.
I really wish
It
I had seen
fair
it through
enough.
your eyes, but I was
Uh,
I think I said it in my 31 where I was because Cody said it's a no-go for me. And I remember watching it for like 45 minutes or whatever, thinking, what doesn't he like about this? And then slowly but surely, it's just like, hey, none of this matters.
Yeah. I still like the movie. I gave it a positive review, but it
Mhm.
was disappointing because everybody and their mother was like, "This is like leaps and bounds better than the first one." There was people saying it was the best horror movie of the year, and this was like a November movie, and I was
Yeah.
like, "Really? Wow, okay." And then I walked in and I was like, I think I gave it like half a star less than the first one, so it's close. But
Yeah, I prefer the first one as well.
my big thing is just that, like, the second half of the film just being kinda rendered pointless. I That's a big gripe for me, and I don't like when a movie plays with reality so much that you can't tether to some kind of idea, and because I just disengage. I'm like, "Okay, I don't know what's real, I don't know what's happening, I don't know what's actually consequential here, so I can't care."
Mm.
Did you
And
have the
the
same gripe with the first one? Is my one question, because like, if you remember the part where she goes to the hospital and, the guy is, like, stabbing himself, that's also, like, her break with reality, and that happens quite early. That's what makes her have to take a leave from her job.
Mhm. I didn't, it didn't bother me on the first one, but I think it was because it was, like, one reveal in the first one,
I
where this one's, like, a series of reveals where she finds out that her friend was always the curse, and so every interaction with her was fake, and then she finds out that, the interactions with the guy who's gonna help her at the end, that didn't happen, and fuck you, you have no chance of surviving, and then all of a sudden you find out everything after the egg thing, and it's just like, good lord, like, so, like, the first 20 minutes, and then after that is all a dream.
yeah, I
So
I think the other thing about the first one is they don't like from the 35-minute mark on, it's not implied that every single thing that you're witnessing is technically part of this smile
I
dream
don't
thing. It
uh,
happens in like moments, but it's not like every single thing you saw is rendered inert because of the ending.
yeah, and
I don't
beyond
think that's
that,
the correct interpretation, that everything after the 35-minute, there are things for sure, and, her friend being there is definitely not actually a thing, but,
The driving
um
scene, I was just like, Fuck you." Like,
yeah,
what do you
it's
mean?"
basically like a reimagining of the scene from the first one. It is definitely familiar territory, but the way that I see it, events did happen, just she happens to be able to see somebody who's not actually there. Like, she has an interaction with her mom and the friend, and the mom just doesn't address the friend, even though the friend's like, "Hello." I don't know, there's, like, little things. It kinda works, it's kinda like the Sixth Sense thing. It's like, well, wouldn't somebody notice, like, "Hey, you're not talking to her," or something? But yeah, I mean, you assume with the frames that you've seen, just nobody happened to address the other person.
I mean,
For me, it
I don't
works. I can
hate it.
totally
I
understand
just
your
think it's
criticism.
wild that it's that high for you. It's I wish I could appreciate it the way you did it.
I was bugged too that we didn't learn anything new about the demon. That was the other thing that really frustrated me. Like, she basically went through the same breadcrumb trail as the first, with Sosie Bacon, and by the end of it, we didn't learn anything else. It was just like, "Ha ha, fuck you, you die."
I think we
Eh,
learned a little. So is your guys' interpretation that, now I can't remember the actor's name. I love the dude, he's a good character actor, but, the guy, who tries to help her, do you think that he doesn't exist at all?
He can't, right?
I'm pretty sure that
The
was, I
guy
mean, I've only
in the
seen it
bar?
once,
The guy she
but
meets in the bar, right?
yeah.
He
Yeah.
can't.
So I had a slightly different interpretation, that the first time she meets him, he is real, but the second time is not. And I think that there is some ambiguity to how I've heard like everybody else kind of interpret this. Because from what I get from a lot of people is, uh, you there is this break from reality. She does see this friend that's not actually there, but then she's still able to actually interact with the world. Kind of like in the first one, she did see that therapist as there, but she's still able to interact with the world. It's not like everything around her is fake. Just that one, she's the only one who can see that. But fair enough.
Yeah, I
And
just
that
don't
would
think
be
they
frustrating if.
achieved that well enough. I
Hmm.
mean, I don't dispute that that's
I think if it's
certainly
this
possible.
confusing for
Right.
everybody, they did a poor job at conveying what their idea
Right.
was,
Right, and I agree with that.
Fair enough. I like the ambiguity. I think that's one of the reasons why I was kind of drawn to it. But fair enough. Yeah, so that's my number three. Cody, I don't think you gave your number three yet, did you?
Did not. My number 3 is actually gonna be Heretic. This was
Oh, hell yeah.
another secret screening at Fantastic Fest and ended up being my favorite film of the whole festival. And it was a movie that I was looking forward to, but I wasn't, like, super jazzed about it. There's, like, 5 other things I would've been more excited if they revealed was that screening. And when I got done watching it, I was like, "I don't know if I have any issues with that." I really loved what Hugh Grant does. I think that, I doubt he's gonna win anything, but I think that he should at least get nominated for Best Actor if we're handing out some horror awards this year.
Hmm.
And what I love about the movie more than anything is that religious horror is great when it's written smart. It's just so seldom that. And this is one where it feels like they really brilliantly walk this tightrope of having a character present arguments against religion and against what people have faith in, and giving real world explanations for that, which people tend to gravitate towards if they're a non-believer. Is like, well, this doesn't make sense, or what you call it, whatever it is, and then you have the other characters where they give just as much power to them championing faith, and the movie just kind of has this tug of war,
Mhm.
and it doesn't really make a solid statement one way or the other. It just kind of lets you bathe in this argument and walk away with whatever your interpretation is, or whatever conversation you want to have. And I just thought it was very, very well done for something that's such a slippery slope to discuss and talk about.
I agree.
And um, the only that I still have yet to rewatch it, but the only thing that I kind of didn't love was some of the things that we were told in the last 10 minutes or so
Yep.
that I had questions about. But I think if I rewatch it, maybe I'll, if nothing else, be able to kind of come up with my own interpretation of what all that is. That was the only part that didn't cleanly come together, but I just thought it was very well done. As something that's just people kind of having conversations for most of it. Hugh Grant is so perfectly creepy and charming in equal amounts, and very funny.
Mhm.
And I just had a really, really good time with it.
Yeah, I agree. It's
Yeah.
it's my top 5.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Gray.
Uh, I I think it's just outside of mine, but I agree with everything that you just said as well. I love Hugh Grant's weaponized charm in this one.
Hmm.
Yeah, and it's like you said, Cody, the fact that, if you're agnostic, atheist, religious, they kind of they they do things for your side and also shit on your point it
Hmm.
equally, where it's just like and manages to be ambiguous in the end too, which is kind of, it's a very fine line. And isn't it ex-Mormons that directed this, or current Mormons that directed this?
One of the writer directors married into Mormonism,
Okay,
so
okay.
it's
Yeah.
interesting that this, you could tell this probably came a lot from him, as somebody that probably walked into Mormonism going, "What the fuck is this crazy shit?" And then, then eventually joins into it. And so you very much get both sides of just what his experience was.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I had a really good time, and Emily and I watched it, her first time, and she too was a little scrambled with the last 10 minutes or so, but kind of shocked because I think she was expecting something totally different when I threw it on, but
Mhm.
uh, I enjoyed it way more
You
the
know, I
second time.
was.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was expecting something completely different. I had heard that not only are they going to tear apart Mormons in this, but it's also going to be a refutation of religion. And it's not really going that route. Like they're not dealing with any of the actual arguments for it. Instead, it's just kind of this, what is the purpose for that? It's not arguing against it. And just, man, it worked very well for me. And then just the amount of ambiguity in there. Like I was saying with the last one, it draws me in. So
Hmm.
yeah, this is definitely one of my favorite ones, and I'm glad to hear that at least Hugh Grant was nominated for a BAFTA for his performance in this. So hell yeah,
Did
I'm glad that not only Hugh
this
Grant but horror's getting a little bit more.
did the Saturn Awards happen yet? Because he's probably at least due for a nomination there.
I don't know.
I am not sure.
Saturn's usually pretty big on sci-fi horror. Um, my number 2, because it seems like someone wanted to use a technicality to not talk about it. My number 2 is Strange Darling. Um, I mean, I could have used this in so many different categories. Surprise of
Was
the
this
year.
another one that I told you to watch?
Yes, it actually is. I could probably
I'm
do
awesome.
I could do a list of like 10 movies Cody told me to watch and worked. Um, but
And then you blame me for the mousetrap. You're like, all that credit you had is fucking gone.
I didn't publicly say your name. I was trying to protect you, sir. That was your fault.
No, it was not. I didn't tell you
No,
to
no.
watch it.
No,
I
I
just
meant, I
told
meant
you
it was your fault that you just
There
outed
you
yourself.
go.
I, I don't see many flaws with this movie at all. It's
It doesn't have the
brilliant.
best rewatch value. That's the only thing
I
that
would
I will tell
disagree.
you. Really.
I watched it for the first time with Emily, and she enjoyed it for her first time, and
Well, yeah, when you're watching it with somebody else, it's a little different. But yeah, I watched it. I think it's brilliant too, so I'm not taking anything away from
Mhm.
it. But that was the only thing that I would say is I watched it in theaters and at last year's festival, and I was like, hell yeah! And then I watched it at home to do my review when it released wide, and I was like, yeah, once you kind of know the tricks, it
Yeah.
doesn't hit the same. But that's just the nature of movies like this. Anyway, go on. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, there's probably weeks worth of discussions on this channel alone about Strange Darling, but, I gotta give it its flowers because fucking the thing works, and who the hell knew Giovanni Ribisi had the eye that he does because holy shit, the cinematography in this movie is incredible.
Hmm.
But yeah, if you haven't heard of it, rent it at the very least. Did we lose Gray for a little bit?
Did we?
All right.
Yeah. See, the Strange Darling was one that I know I bring up this festival a lot, but it was a movie that just like I only watched it because Kyle Gallner was in it, and I was like, okay. And it just ended up being one of my favorites from last year because of how subversive it is.
Mhm,
And it's such a hard movie to talk about because like you kind of like let the air out of the balloon by even trying to like pitch what the appeal is.
mhm.
But one of the funniest things about it, just to kind of tell a story, was that for those that know the way the movie plays out and the information that you get first, the crowd that goes to these festivals tend to be very sensitive to certain subject matters and things like that. And so I was in a theater, I think with the director. I think he was 2 seats over from me. And he talked about it afterwards, but I could even kind of see his thing. So like after an assault happens, there was a chunk of people that just left. They're like, nope, not for me. And you get to see him going like, oh, fuck, no, wait, like just 5 more minutes. Yeah. And so that was something I'll always remember about that one is just how quickly. And I tell my dad this all the time whenever he gives up on movies. I'm like, sometimes it's worth sticking in there because sometimes they can surprise you.
Yeah, that's another testament to the way they use color in this movie because
Mhm.
the things that they show you first, that assault you're talking about, is in black and white. And without any context, if you look at those scenes in black and white, it feels like, oh yes, someone's being assaulted. But later on, you see it in full color, and it's like, oh, oh, okay. The way they use color in that movie is just spectacular.
Mhm.
Sorry, Gray.
I'm sorry. I thought I could gracefully step away and grab my sugar gliders, but I drew attention to it. I'm sorry.
No,
Just the wrong time.
it's fine.
Uh,
I'm just spent
I
on
couldn't.
Strange Darling, but I couldn't omit it.
Yeah, and I want to say everything that you said about it. Just Giovanni Ribisi just killing it as the cinematography on there. The other image that I can't get out of my mind is that one of Gallner in the foreground, and then Willa Fitzgerald in the background. Just man, that's such amazing deep focus shot or split diopter, as I like to call it.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's just so beautiful. There's so much about that film, and then man, I do hard disagree on the rewatch thing. I think I've seen it like 6 or 7 times now. I keep noticing more and more throughout it. Just
That's
everything
why
is
you
just
didn't watch too many movies last year.
it's true. I think of how many I could have gotten
You
to.
coulda got to
Um,
250.
it's the goal. That's 2025. But yeah, it's an amazing movie. Again, I'm just using a technicality is the only reason why it's not my number 2 as well.
Okay. Well, why don't you give us, your real number 2? Are we up to
Uh,
ones?
well,
2? 2.
because of that technicality, there's a movie that I was sadly sleeping on. It got recommended to me quite a few different times, and I was told, since it appears that you keep liking musicals, you should check this one out. And yeah, I don't know why my
Gray's
list is
favorite
so full of
musical of the
musicals.
year.
This one actually is my favorite musical of the year, which is odd. I wouldn't think that one, let alone many, are on my list, but here we are.
Mhm.
What a strange 2024 it was. But it's an interesting movie that I don't know why I drug my feet so much to not see this. I think a lot of it has to do with the poster for this movie, the actual cover for it. It is the worst cover I saw last year, and I think just every time I saw it, it's like, I'll watch that later. It's a really fun movie. I enjoy it. It feels like a throwback to me, but it's called Kneecap. It's
Oh.
this Irish movie. To me, I can't get this movie out of my head, and I thought maybe I'm crazy. I watched it and it's like, damn, is this really like one of my top movies of the year? And maybe it's because I'm starved for comedy. I love some comedy, but this is a comedic biopic of musicians who the musicians actually play themselves.
Mm.
Um, they're Irish rappers, which when you hear Irish hip hop, you don't think like that needs to be a movie, but man, does it work in a weird way for me. Just they say it as like the first line in there. When you hear or see a movie about Belfast, you just a certain thing comes to mind, and it's not Irish hip hop. This is completely a different type of movie, and man, it kind of tricked me in a certain way. It does a lot with what it is with these kind of lovable, weird characters. That again, for some reason, the actual musicians are playing themselves in this somewhat fictional biopic. But man, it really works on so many levels for me. But it also kind of tricked me into learning and getting kind of interested in this world that kind of it's happening in. And the only well, there's a couple of actors that you would know. You'd at least recognize one face, and then Michael Fassbender happens to be in this
Mm.
one. If it's got Fassbender, how bad could it be?
Doesn't get
But
naked though. Minus point for that.
fair enough. I always detract from a movie as well. Um, for those reasons.
For the
But
fast bender.
man, this this just it kind of worked for me. And maybe it is because, our comedies that we've had are like what Unfrosted and like Axel F, stuff like that. It doesn't feel like things are hitting and Dear Santa, as we mentioned, it doesn't feel like people are actually trying like in a certain comedy way. And this has a certain throwback to it, but it's not just tasteless comedy. It doesn't feel like it's a Farrelly Brothers movie, even though it's going to some similar territory. It's just got so many amazing homage shots in it. It's got a lot of train spotting in there.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of other ones that you can really notice, but man, this could be some of my favorite depictions of drug use. Like what they're able to do with the camera is very interesting, including a time where they're meaning to do one drug and actually do it different, and then everything becomes claymation, and it works. Just everything about this is very interesting. You'd think, okay, so Irish hip hop, are we really going to move the camera in weird ways? But it works so many different ways for me, and then the music really holds up. In fact, I don't know. Irish hip hop is on my Spotify now. I didn't anticipate that. I don't know.
Someone
It's
hasn't heard
very
House of
interesting.
Pain.
I am familiar. They're not they're not in the current rotation. I'll put it that way. But man, Kneecap is, and they actually are having a U.S. tour in just a couple months, and I've already bought tickets.
Wow.
This one just really, really affected me in a great way. I thought maybe I was crazy, so I showed it to my wife. I didn't preface it with anything. It's just like, hey, you want to watch a movie? Yeah, it's one of her top ones of the year too. So
It's my top
maybe
20.
I'm crazy. Yeah, there's something about this one. Just it's not usually the way that this type of world is kind of described, and for me, it worked out perfectly. I would highly recommend braving through the poster and
Sure.
actually watching this flick. It is worth seeing. But yeah, sadly, I think the cover is really distracting on this one.
My issue, and
But
I'm sorry.
ooh, you've got an issue.
Well, my issue, and it's strictly a me issue, is I needed the subtitles because their accents are
Yes.
a little hit thick.
Well,
But other than
yeah, I
that,
guess that's the other part that I stopped. It is heavily talking about the Irish language, and a good portion of it is in Irish language. So it is in Gaelic. So it's really kind of an interesting story, and it is kind of an interesting view of this. But yeah, subtitles are kind of unnecessary.
well, yeah, isn't that's part of the element too? They refuse to speak in English because it's something of a
Yeah.
there's a point for them to not, even though they can speak English, they refuse to speak English for. I'm in the UK. I'm disgracing this satellite planet right now. But there's purpose.
Well, I'm sorry that I put you in that position.
It's my own
But
fault.
yeah, I think the line is something like every word of Irish spoken is a bullet fired.
Mm.
So yeah, there is a purpose why they're trying to preserve this language, and it's really beautiful. I would recommend seeing this. It might not be for the whole family, but man, it really got me. And Yeah, again, the fact that the actual musicians are playing themselves, including the DJ, just man, these guys, they've got skills beyond what I would assume. Uh, so yeah, I'd recommend checking that out. It was a darling at Sundance. I think it won, wasn't the audience award, but it has gotten some buzz, and then there is some Oscar buzz with this. I know Ireland did put it forward as like their international
International
film.
picture?
So
Good for them.
yeah, so it might get some sort of recognition, but I'd recommend checking that one out.
Yeah. I would preface, and maybe because I knew nothing about it, I was able to enjoy it more. I'm weird about stuff though. Where if you told me this was a great thing and I walked into it watching, expecting, an Oscar buzz movie, I don't know if I would have the same experience, but that's just me. Cody.
Number 2 for me is Deadpool and Wolverine.
Whoa.
It was I mean, my top 2 movies are the most fun that I had in the theater in 2024, and I just really value having fun and laughing
Hmm?
in a movie theater. Like one of us just alluded not too long ago about how bad comedy has been
Mm.
in movies for a very long time, decade plus. And Deadpool and Wolverine, along with Anora, were the 2 movies that as far as comedies go, that I laughed at the hardest both times that I saw it. And I'm a big fan of the Deadpool movies. I think that this one is right up there with the first one, competing for my favorite of them. I think that Ryan Reynolds, I don't know why suddenly this year people decide that they hate him, but I really like his style of humor. It works for me. I was worried that this was going to affect Logan somehow, and I think they did it in a way where it really didn't. Like, it made it a joke at first, and then they really do kinda do their own thing where it doesn't feel like that legacy's been kinda torn at all. And what Hugh Jackman can bring to this to kind of bounce off of Ryan Reynolds' constant shenanigans was a nice little addition here. I always hesitate to even call them cameos because I feel like they're just like surprise side characters. They're not just popping up to say hi. They actually have like a point in the plot.
Mm.
But all of the cameos I thought were really well done. One in particular was just like, oh, like this is for me. And when I took my dad to go see it, specifically for him to see that, and I could see his reaction to it, it was definitely worth it. Action was really good. And, like, it's the main thing that I've heard pretty much everybody, even a lot of fans of it, say is that the story is horrible, and I don't think it's near as bad as people make it out to be, but I think the movie, regardless, it plays by the rules of a comedy. Like, most comedies aren't going for, like, this amazing story. There's some that are, but for the most part, it's let's set up gags, let's set up bits, let's set up ways to make you laugh, and as long as the plot gets us from point A to point B and you're laughing along the way, for the most part, you can forgive that pretty easily.
Plus
So I
it's
don't have
plus it's something of a roast of modern
yes.
multiverse Marvel movies. So it's like, you're used to this type of storytelling by now.
Yeah,
So
and it's almost it has like a really intentionally stupid multiverse
right,
plot
right,
as part of the gag.
right.
You know what I mean? And I feel like that's getting missed by a lot of people,
Like
but
trap.
regardless. Yeah, exactly. It was supposed to be that way. But, yeah, this one was a pick, just pure fun. Like, I look at the movies that I have in the rest of my top 5, like Heretic and Anora and Substance, and I'm like, "Man, like, I don't." It feels kinda dirty to put Deadpool and Wolverine ahead of movies like that, but I just can't deny how much I enjoyed this and how much joy it brought me. And there's not too many movies, no matter how good they are, they can just be pure joy for me.
Right on.
Hard to argue with that. It
Mhm.
was a fun time. Definitely one of the better car scenes too in a movie this year.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Definitely put it up against Daddy-O.
That puts me to my one. You already kind of teased it a little bit. It's a movie that took me forever to watch, and people kept asking me, "Have you seen blank yet? Have you seen blank yet? Have you seen blank yet?" And it took forever. It took me till about the last week of the year, actually. And watching this movie for about 25 minutes, and I swear there was 10 fuck scenes, like full nude fuck scenes. And as much as I play something of a sexist on YouTube, when I watch movies at home, especially around my wife, it's like, all right, put your clothes on, start telling a story because enough's enough here. um, but
So, like me, like I turn, I'm like, "You in the mood?"
Wait, you want to
Like,
pause it?
no, all right. There's 3 more. Just hang on.
But Honora,
Yeah.
holy shit! I, it was at the point where I was like, if this movie's just going to be about a stripper fucking, I don't know if I understand why everybody's all about this movie. But something
Turns on
happened.
a dime.
Holy shit, does it? Yeah, once they go to Vegas for something, and from there forward, it pivots into this like I don't know, Married to the Mob meets Pretty Woman type thing, but like really sharp with the humor. And it's not something I've seen from Sean Baker before, but everything
Mm.
else that you expect from Sean Baker is there. And another movie this year or in 2024 where after the first act, I felt one way, but for the rest of the movie, I was like, wow, this is totally different. But as far as Honora is concerned, uh, as it kept going, I needed to know what was happening, what was going on next, and it's very funny. If this is what comedy needs to be moving forward, I'm I'm fully endorsing it. But you know, the fact that it's R-rated and there's so much nudity and so much adult material, I don't know if studios will totally be behind that. But uh, the comedy exists without the sexual subject matter, um, and the ending is like really something of a gut punch,
Mhm.
and something that Sean Baker does is
Sneaks in.
fucking hey, it does. Like Sean Baker knows how to give you realistic, uh, lower middle class, perhaps even lower than that type people, and it just all feels very genuine. Even going to the uh, effect of casting, like just real people. Um, but it just felt genuine, and for it to feel genuine and still be as funny as it is, and still give you that fucking gut punch at the end, it just sat with me. And for a movie that, half an hour in, I was like, why is everyone all about this? By the end, I was like, oh, I understand, and I'm all about this. But yeah, Honora is fantastic, just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, this was you watched it with your wife. I watched it with Uncle Sean. And so
Oh,
similar, very similar reactions where I don't I think I picked this one. Like we kind of like plan our attack at when you do the Fantastic Fest thing and try to get into whatever movies we want first. And we had both heard buzz about this one, but I didn't know anything about it. Like I think somebody had I think it was written in the little pamphlet like a Cinderella story for sex workers. And I was like, okay, interesting, but I didn't know if it was like a romance movie or what.
mm,
And so we sit down, and yeah, it's nothing but just drugs and fucking for 40
mm.
minutes. And I remember turning to Sean being like, sorry. and, and it was even better, like the turn that you talk about. And when you're in a theater full of people, like I'm so glad I watched it in a theater because the eruption of laughter just made it so much better. But as soon as you get to the scene where there's scuffles and fighting and shit getting broken, you hear the guy on the phone. It shows the phone and he's like, "What are you doing? Are you killing her?" And like from everybody's like busts out laughing for the first time in the movie, and everybody just like in confusion, like, "Is this about to be really fucking funny?" And then from there on out, it was just uproars of laughter over and over and over again. It was one of the most enjoyable movies of the year for sure, and really does sneak up on you, like you say. It's so multi-layered and kind of hard to describe
Yeah,
in the best way.
right. And
Like you say, Pretty Woman and this other thing, and that doesn't even really quite cover it. Like it's
sure.
you could short pitch this to somebody and still not quite prepare them for it.
And I love the fact that, without giving anything away, I thought like the thing.
Your preconceived notions about people were challenged.
Let's just say I thought age was going to be an issue with a certain character, and I thought that's how they were gonna work around their issue, and I'm actually glad that that didn't end up being the case.
Mhm.
If you know what I'm s it just something of an
Mhm.
immature character, and, I I'm
I
I'm
thought that's where they were going
I'm
to.
kind of glad that they didn't do that. It actually makes the character that much more, of a douchebag.
I am all for that idea. I wanna see it as a live stream.
So yeah, I wish I had seen this with an audience. For some reason, I also kind of slept on this one, but everybody was telling me like, "You've got to see this. It's amazing. It's the best comedy of the year." And yeah, I just also watched it with my wife, and it's like I this one I kind of hyped up. I was like, I heard it's like the funniest movie ever. Let's watch it. Uh, it was like Charles mentioned, just so awkward, and then yeah, it's like, I
Tricked you.
swear this is gonna be funny, just like any minute now. No, trust me. Like, perhaps that wasn't the greatest experience with this, but, yeah, once it to me, it's half a great movie, which doesn't quite make it a great movie. It is my favorite Sean Baker one.
Hmm.
It is my favorite, Mikey Madsen one. I think she does amazing. I'm glad now I can't remember his name, but the dude who plays Igor is getting some recognition off of this one. I
Mhm.
think the other henchman that shows up with him, he also is
I
just
loved
hilarious. I
him.
think
I
that dude,
love that
yeah, I
guy.
think he should get more recognition because, man, that was where most of my laughs were coming from.
Mhm.
But, yeah, I can understand why it's impacting so many people. I also had it, like, spoiled, like, and it's got a perfect ending, and I got a couple problems with the ending. I understand why it went where it went, but yeah, it's not where I wanted it to go, I guess. But fair enough. It's definitely nowhere near the bottom of my list.
Why don't you give us your top then?
Well, um, yeah, so I didn't say much when Charles,
Which musical
did
is
his
it,
number
Gray?
3. Well, this musical is an well,
Wicked's all that's
actually,
left.
this is a French one. No, so I was kinda quiet when you talked about your number 3 'cause, The Substance is my number 1 movie of the
Oh,
year. You guys are totally right. When I think of images from this year, I keep going back to The Substance. I was lucky that I got to see it kinda right as it came out, and then it's like, "Okay, I really like this." I wanted my wife to see it, so we went and we watched it a second time, and man, I don't know how many times I've seen it now. It's way too many times, but, yeah, this film is just so amazing. I love what, Corley Frege was able to do with this. The fact that this is only her 2nd film, like her sophomore feature, just man, that is mind blowing. Especially when, most people have kind of their sophomore slump, but this thing, just yeah, as Charles mentioned, like it's like Cronenberg Barbie, and it's some of the best body horror, but it goes so far beyond that. There
dude,
is this messaging, this
I've heard revenge is no joke neither. Apparently, her first film was
it's
pretty good.
not,
It's good. It's not on
yeah,
the level of this, but it's good.
Okay,
yes, I would totally endorse that critique of it.
sorry, Gray.
But it's not a bad film. It's yeah. I was going to trash another film, but let me not do that. Instead, let me just say how amazing this one is. So Mubi happened to release this like 24-minute behind the scenes thing. It's kind of an interview with Corley Frege, and then it goes into like all the effects and everything. Just she had this unique, streamlined vision, and it was all encompassing. She knew exactly what she wanted out of every aspect of this, from the way that she wanted it to look to the actual like effects, and then what she demanded out of these actors. And just man, these are some of my favorite performances of the year. I want Demi Moore to get even more recognition for this, but when I'm looking at a lot of the other supporting actresses, I don't know if they went through as much as Margaret Qualley did in this either. She also is doing some very, very brave performance in this one, and just man, the fact that she's willing to kind of get into that final form, and every bit that it takes to get into that, just man, I think she deserves a little bit more credit than she's currently getting. It sounds like we're kind of going more to me for the recognition for this one, which she should totally get it. But
I think
everyone's kind of talking about, oh sorry, go right ahead,
no,
Charles.
I think part of it is the fact that to me it is kind of a mirror image of the character. She's kind of past her prime, and you know,
It's kinda like a stars align role
right,
where, even her Golden Globe speech talking about it, she's never gotten an award before, and she's like for me, she's been an icon since
sure,
the '80s.
sure. And the fact that, it's brave to take on an anti-pretty role, for lack of a better definition. I think that's why in an industry where beauty and youth is such a big deal. I mean, basically that's what the movie's about. I think that has something to do with the fact where Demi Moore's getting a little bit more
For sure, and
attention.
that's definitely a theme on it.
Sure.
And there's some other movies that also tackled this kind of thing, but also like trauma and fame and addiction. It hits those really hard, but
Mm.
it's not beating you over the head with it. I love the messaging behind this, and you can see so much more that she just had in this vision. But if you do get a chance to watch the behind the scenes thing, they go through all the prosthetics that they use in this, but everything is practical. And the way that she decided to film this, she had the actors for like the first half of the shoot, and then everything else was just like her like doing everything herself, including like injecting herself with the substance. Like the shot of the needle going in the skin, that's her injecting herself.
Hmm.
Just man, she put so much into this, required the actors to go through so much and just really commit to this.
Is it
And
getting a
the
4K?
end product is I think it has to be, considering the recognition it's getting.
I think
But
I ordered one from
nice.
Diabolic DVD or something.
Okay.
It's not gonna be like a Amazon
Yeah.
purchase. I think you have to find it.
Yeah, because movie released it, so, they're not, like, really a distributor so much. Sorry,
Yeah.
Greg, I just keep stepping on you.
No, I mean, we've kind of said everything about this. Just, I absolutely love it. When I'm thinking of film in 2024, this is the one that I'm going to think of. So I'm glad it's actually getting the recognition. And man, I want it to actually win something else. But good for Demi. I'm glad she's finally getting some recognition because
Mm,
she really puts herself through hell for a lot of the roles. She's not just your average Brat Pack member.
right on. Cody, tell us why, The Substance is your number 1.
Number 1 for me is Abigail. It has been since,
Oh,
April, whenever I saw it in New Orleans, and there's no other way to explain it other than this movie just feels like it was made for me. I
mm,
love vampire flicks. I love the campy genre ones that have fun with it, like The Lost Boys and The Thing are my 2 favorite horror films of all time, and this is very much in the vein of Lost Boys. And I just have, just like what I said with Deadpool and Wolverine, I had so much fun watching this movie. I think that the characters are all a lot of fun, played really well by the actors. I think that the comedy and the writing in the movie and the dialogue is awesome. Like, still one of the best lines of the year is "Sammy, those are fucking onions." And the gore, even though it's over the top and a lot of CG, like, it's so over the top that it works. It's comedic and campy in that way, and I just enjoy everything about this. I've rewatched it more than any other film this year, and again, very similar to Deadpool and Wolverine. I saw this at a film festival, texted my dad and said, "Hey, this movie's coming out on this date. Don't watch a trailer. Don't watch, don't look at a poster or anything. I just want you to go see it. I know you're gonna love it." And he did. And he said it was like the best movie that he's seen, the most fun he's had in the theater in a long time. And it also totally proved wrong that popular argument of how the trailer ruined the movie, because he didn't see a trailer, and 15 minutes in, he's like, "She's like a monster or something." Like, I mean, it doesn't hide it. Nonetheless, I just have so much fun with this one. This is just my kind of movie. I get why it's not as high for some. I get why some didn't like it anywhere near as much as me, but this is just my thing. I love vampire flicks, and this is one of the best ones I've seen in years.
right on.
Totally get that. It's really fun, and I love Dan Stevens' character and everyone
You
in
mean
the gang.
Patrick.
But
His
Yeah.
name is Patrick.
yeah, that's right. I can't help but think of Patrick every time I see that
I
character,
know.
especially his role in this one. How how much of an asshole he kind of is. It's perfect. But yeah, I totally get the love behind that. I had it completely spoiled. Like somebody just said, "Hey, there's this new vampire movie. You should check it out." And I don't think that ruined anything. Like that got me interested in it. I really think it was a
It's
weird campaign.
it's such a bizarre one, and they're so passionate about it too. Like, even people that I know and I respect, and I know they're sensible people, are like hardcore, like, "No, the fucking trailer ruined it." And I'm like, for me, it's not only the setup and the pitch of the movie, but like when you watch, their argument is that the reveal doesn't come till 40 minutes in, so it's a spoiler. And for me, when you watch the first 40 minutes knowing what's coming, it's very funny and entertaining. Watch them point the fingers at all the wrong things, because they think it's a mob enforcer. They think it's each other, and it's just like it's almost a slapstick nature to it, how wrong they are, and you're just waiting for them to finally figure it out that it's this fucking vampire. And so I just don't understand that at all. Like, it's just a very, very bizarre argument that I was shocked how much steam it got when the
Yeah.
movie came out.
Yeah,
Without
I didn't know it was a spoiler. All I heard was radio silence and vampire movie. It's like, I'm in. Like, let's
Yeah.
see this.
Yeah.
without getting too political, I think it's awesome that Melissa Barrera is in this movie and just fucking kills it. Like,
She's
I don't need
better
your
in
scream
everything
shit.
that I see her in.
Yeah.
Did
Yeah,
you guys see
absolutely.
Your Monster?
Yes.
Yes.
She's very good in that too.
Mhm.
We don't have to elaborate, but everything I see her in, she's better than the last
Yeah.
film I saw her in.
Yeah, so, right on for
For
her.
sure. And all the actors, like everyone in the gang, I really like a lot of their performances.
Oh yeah,
Just, man,
Kevin
this one's
Durand
a
is
fun watch.
fucking hilarious in
Mhm.
that one. Like, she's
And I'm-
Salazar, you idiot! I thought you said her name was Abigail.
And I forget her name, but the one from Lisa Frankenstein also was pretty fun. in
Oh
this one.
shit. I'm blanking on it, but
She
yeah,
had
she's
quite a
great
year,
too.
too.
Catherine Newton. Sorry, it took me a second.
Do you guys have a minute or 10?
Sure.
Yeah, sure.
All right, let me go through the super chats. I highlighted them. I don't know why they were what they were, but I will get to them now. Movie Freak 2000, $5. Thank you. Love you guys, Cody. You're the man. Happy you're doing okay. CP missed you in their debrief. Oh, thank you. Hello to Gray too.
Hey,
We missed him too. It was too cordial. It was weird.
Fucking A, it
was like-
was, dude. I
We
was
all agree? Okay, moving on.
I was sick, and I'm like, can I just? I need some sort of action.
Yeah.
Aaron Amanda, $10. Thank you. Totally random, but thought the holidays was probably. But through the holidays, I probably watched your analysis video on Thanksgiving with Cody like 10 times. It literally has me dying every time. From last year?
hell yeah.
Hmm.
It's a classic, man.
All right. Well,
Name a better Eli Roth one from the last couple years.
knock knock.
All right, fair enough.
Get out of here.
The Hostel 2.
Death Wish.
Yeah. Yeah. Flame Tracks, $5. Thank you. Thanks for the live, guys. Thanks for the $5. Gavin, $5. Are you skeptic about Heat 2? That's a sequel that we for sure don't need.
Oh, I didn't actually hear about that one.
I don't know what the story is. It's hard to say until I know what the story is. I mean, that seems like a very one and done type of thing. So what is the
Yeah.
follow up? Is it a prequel? Is it a sequel? I don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
Is Michael Mann doing it, I'm assuming?
Yeah, I think he wrote it. I think he wrote like a novelization for it first, and now we're getting whatever the fuck the
I guess it
leftovers are.
depends on how good the novel was. I hadn't heard anything about it, so I guess that somewhat tells you.
Yeah, I've
A lot of these legacy remakes have not been, or whatever you want to call it, like continuations, extremely old sequels. I don't know what you want to call that, but they haven't really captured the magic. I hope this one's different. I really love Heat.
Gladiator 2.
Yeah, that one comes to mind.
Yeah, I prefer the town to the Heat. I don't know if that's
I
it.
do too, actually.
All right, we're gonna have a fun May, I think.
Yeah. That's going to be Brian's number one. I'm almost positive.
I better be healthy.
I mean, he forced it into his top 50 action movies because of the one sequence because he wanted to talk about it. So what's that tell you?
Brian, no.
Yeah. You 31'd your own ranking.
Ooh.
If I can't talk about Heat, I ain't fucking doing it.
Ooh. He's saying Austin Butler and Adam Driver might be in Heat too. That sounds interesting to me. I'm really digging their acting currently.
I'm intrigued.
I like them. I don't think they are necessarily like a guarantee that they made the best choice. You know what I mean? I've seen just as many
Yeah.
shit movies with them as I have
After
good ones. but-
65 in Megalopolis, Adam Driver's slipping off a
But
little
Austin
bit.
Butler, man, come on.
All right.
He was pretty awesome at the beginning of the year.
Sure. Two more. Hayden Baker. Charles, hope your health is improving. We're getting there. Love your comedy and content. Cody, you're awesome as always. All love to you, gentlemen, and to you. Thank you. Lastly, but not leastly, Sean. Shane Bryan not here. Be a fun debate. Team Bryan. All right.
Debate on
I don't know.
what?
Heat?
Probably anything.
Mhm.
I think Sean's just Team Bryan. Just likes being an antagonist. All
There
right.
you go.
So we're caught up. We'll go to top of the hour. Is that good for you guys?
Sure.
Sure.
So if you guys
Kept
have,
me this long. Might as well.
I mean, we can shut it down now if you want.
No, I'm just fucking with you.
Yeah. So the floor is open if you guys have anything you wanted to bring up about 2024 or I guess 2025.
Who saw Wolfman? Yay!
Did-
I wanted it to be good. I have not seen it yet, but I'm not hearing
I'd
good
still
things.
encourage you to check it out because it's one of those movies that I think you're either gonna love or it's just really not gonna work for you. I don't see a whole lot in the middle on this one,
Hmm.
so it might pay off for you. Can we pay Brian to watch Heretic? I don't know why he hasn't. It seems like a movie that, like, I don't know if somebody told him not to. I don't know if he just hasn't gotten to it. I don't know if it hasn't been released in the UK yet or what's
we
going
got
on.
it
But
here.
okay, yeah,
you know
that
what?
seems like a movie that he would have raced to go watch.
And hold on, when the time comes, if Brian needs to ask me about my uncle, he knows how to get in touch with me. So
Yeah.
sorry, not no.
Yeah.
That
He had
door's
time
open.
to watch Hills Have Eyes.
Are you guys looking forward to F1 with Brad Pitt?
Usually I'm not into racing movies, but I
Same.
hear some weird buzz about this. And I got to be honest, if you told me a video game racing movie would actually be good, I would have called you a liar. And then,
Touché.
Gran Turismo came out. And I don't know. My mind is open, but usually it's not my jam.
I don't really know anything about it aside from I don't know if it was debunked. There was reports that it was like massive budget. It was like $300-400 million movie or something crazy. Maybe they debunked it since then, but that was the only thing I heard about it was massively budget movie with Brad Pitt about F1 racing. And I was like, why? Okay.
Yeah. The news I heard about that is like they put him in an F2 car, which I guess is slower or smaller or whatever, and they managed to
They called it F1.
like Tom Cruise it so that they could film him in the car and whatever.
Cheater.
Whatever.
I hope it's good. I hear it's supposed to be one of the major
Sure.
ones this summer.
Budget 300 million is what it says on Wikipedia, so you know it's true.
And The Rock isn't even in this one, so
Manny says 28 years later is my most anticipated movie of the year
Oh,
so
it's-
far.
It's by Apple. Apple's got fuck you money. They don't care.
Oh yeah, like wolves.
Yeah.
Jesus.
Instigators had moments, but
Yeah.
fair enough.
I like Instigators. I don't know if it'd be a movie that I would run over anybody to tell them to watch it.
Have you seen the trailer
Yeah.
for that movie, The Gorge, that's coming to Apple?
Is
It
that with
looks
Anya
interesting.
Taylor-Joy?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. The pitch sounded more interesting than the trailer. The trailer made it look like it's leaning more into the romance side of things. I was like, gate to hell? What? That's like this much of the trailer. But we'll see.
Adam says, do you think with 28 years later coming out, they will reissue/reprint 28 days and 28 weeks later? I kind of hope not because I own those. I could use the turnaround on that. What are they worth? Like $50 each now? I don't know.
Fuck all of you. I want to be able to flip this. If they don't do it for this one, when they complete this new trilogy, for sure there'll be something.
Yeah, because it's Disney now, and they love money. I love money. Did the end we start from have any success in the USA? The end.
I did not hear anything about that. I saw, if it wasn't Stiff Kitten, somebody else put that in the chat earlier, and I wrote it down on a list. But I know I didn't hear anything about that, but I definitely want to check it out.
I'm completely unfamiliar with that.
Yeah, I don't think it made any waves here.
Is anyone excited for Avatar 3 other than me? No. Short answer, no.
Ah.
Brian.
Oh,
Maybe
no.
Brian should be here because it seems like I'm bullying him when all I'm doing is just like I'm trying to make up for his
Dude,
absence.
it seems like Sean is just the Brian representative here, the
Mhm.
proxy for Brian. I'm looking forward to Nobody 2. That was the first film
Yeah.
ruled for coming out of absolutely nowhere at the time. My type of fun film. Yeah, I like fun. I'll have a fun time.
I really like the camera movement in that, especially to show the long takes that Odenkirk's actually doing that. So, yeah,
Mhm.
I really hope Nobody 2 kind of adds up to that.
Me too.
What did you guys think of Den of Thieves 2 if you've seen it?
It
I
was
tapped out on the first one.
Oh,
yeah,
oh,
I'm not overly fond of the first one. I find it to be just okay, and this one was okay. I don't think it's much better or worse than the first one. I don't think it needed to be 2.5 hours long or close to 2.5 hours long. Like, the first act drags so much exposition, it's like, you guys could have cut 30 minutes out of this movie and just started. Like, I can't really get into it without getting into the whole plot, but there's just a lot of time spent setting up things that didn't need to have that much time and attention. So it was decent. I
Mhm.
I watched it in a double feature with Wolfman, and I walked out and I
oh,
said, "Okay, Wolfman's definitely going to blow this out of the water." And I ended up preferring Den of Thieves too.
good old
So,
65
Oh.
Scream 6
dude, I'm telling you.
repertoire. Oh, brutal. I wear that Team Brian shirt with pride. Thank you, sir. You wear a pride shirt with Brian's name on
Oh god, he's not Team Sean.
it?
We love you, Brian. And
Yes,
you
of
shit because
course.
you're never here. You're never here to defend yourself.
Except when I wasn't there and it was like a fucking chess match, a boring chess match or a golf. I don't know what's boring or people don't talk.
It was the terrible combination of us all wanting to get done quickly because there was so much technical difficulties.
Dude,
We were actually trying to push for like a 2-hour runtime that we never fucking made. But it was a mix of that and it was a mix of Brian not really wanting to talk too much about the bottom films. And so like all the good meat was taken out of it of us just like, okay, we all agree. Okay, 31. Okay, 30. Okay, 29.
I watched it and like within seconds, Sean drops out and I was like, oh man, this is
It was
this is
comical
rough.
for a minute there, because Rudy's like, "My camera's fucked, I can't join," like, 10 minutes before we went live, and I'm like,
Holy
"God damn."
shit.
And then you weren't there, and I was like, "This is odd for him not to be, like, the first one here," and then
Yeah.
Emily called me, and I'm like, "Okay, he's out." And
I'm
then
glad you just went without me
Sean's
because
microphone comes in, and I was like, "Oh, Jesus." And then yeah,
wow.
or not Sean, yeah, he just dropped out. I was like, "This is fucked. This is fucked. You're gonna see us for 5 minutes," and then pulled through it.
Yeah, I was kind of excited, even though I wasn't there for the big Terrifier showdown, and it
I know when he opens up with like, I know you guys have met Damien. I'm sure he's a good guy." I was like, "This isn't what I paid for."
yeah,
I was paying for the other shit you said. I'm
yeah.
like, "Anybody that makes this
I was fucking
is scum." And I'm
pulling the
like, "Okay."
tubes out of my arms and shit, like, let me at him.
Yeah, exactly. "I'll be on in 5 minutes."
My fucking heart rate. Beep. Is No Country for Old Men gonna be in 31 and 31? I don't know if that
Pretty
information is
sure.
public
Let me
yet.
Yes. Well, I listed off a whole bunch of them whenever we, at the end of the debrief, I gave a tease and listed off, like,
Mm,
half the movies.
okay.
I'll release an official one whenever I have time to put together a teaser or something, or when you're feeling better and I can make you do it.
Yeah,
Um,
that sounds like fun to me.
there you
I've
go.
watched
It'd be tough
4
to
of
rank anything against that.
dude, I've watched 4 of them already, and I'm like, "This is gonna be hard. This
Yeah,
is this is gonna be hard." Like,
it's an exciting one for
yeah.
sure because there's a lot of great stuff, and it's also it gives me a reason to watch a number of them that I haven't seen before.
It's a thing where, like, a third of them are, like, five-star movies where it just
Hell yeah.
you can't go
Easy.
wrong with any of the top 10.
Hmm.
Um, I mean, Cody said it himself. He and Brian didn't really have the fisticuffs we were all expecting him to have. Well,
Yeah.
I would have encouraged it. at the very least.
Yeah.
What are you typing in the chat, Gray? What is this? Weird
Oh,
words?
sorry. Colin was asking if we're fans of any Studio Ghibli movies,
Oh.
and I love them. Nausicaa of the Valley of Wind is just amazing. It is like 80s perfection. I just love that thing. So any chance I get to kind of hawk that towards people, I want to do that because yeah, it's technically not a Studio Ghibli. Miyazaki did it like the year before Studio Ghibli came out, and then it funded Studio Ghibli. So yeah, it's a weird one that most people haven't seen. So sorry, I didn't mean to take
No, no,
over
no,
with
no, no.
weird nonsense in
It
the
was in the
chat.
chat. It's it's not like you're stepping on any of our toes or anything. I was just curious what you were typing. I'll have a bit of a rainy cloud question for you guys because people are asking about the year ahead. What do you think
Ooh.
could be either a failure or a disappointment in this upcoming year? Because I'll open and I'll say I think for some reason, with no information whatsoever, that the Fantastic Four movie is just going to miss, and I have no other reason other than just vibes.
Ooh.
Um,
I have hope for it.
Sure,
I
sure.
have
I don't want to
nothing
be
to really go
wrong.
off
I mean,
of,
I don't want to
but
be right.
it seems like it could be a really cool reimagining or version of this. I'm not sure how they line it up with everything else, but
They've just never
I
nailed
don't
it.
know.
They've never nailed it.
I think the Black Phone 2 could very easily go
Mm,
either way, just because I have no
Mm,
idea how you follow that up. That kind of feels like
yeah.
it made money, so let's do another one. And
Have
that
they said if
creative
it's gonna be a
team,
prequel? Or
they haven't said yet. They haven't said anything. That's why I
oh.
don't know. And it wasn't the same director, but the same creative team to an extent didn't work out so well when they did Sinister 2. I think the movie
Yeah,
that's gonna have the most eyes on it, on whether it fails or succeeds, is gonna be Superman. I don't
mm.
for
necessarily
sure.
have a prediction on how well it's gonna do. I hope it does well. But that's gonna be the one that's, if it's awesome, it's gonna be like, "Oh, thank God DC's back," and, off to the races, and if it's not so good, it's gonna be that's all people are gonna talk about for months is like, "Oh, let's reboot it again. Fire James Gunn. It's the worst thing ever. Bring back Zack
I think
Snyder."
that teaser trailer is like the highest viewed trailer in history or something like that, or at least the quickest in the
I
amount of
was
time.
It's in, like, the top 5. It's the highest viewed Warner Brothers or DC trailer of all time,
Mm,
Hmm.
which is crazy
I don't know.
considering they do Harry Potter as well.
Yeah. So pressure's on. I gotta be honest, after checking out Creature Commandos, I'm all on. I'm all in on Gunn. I think he's gonna do it. The tone
I
of
hope
that,
so.
while we don't get to see like Corn Sweat talk or anything like that, still I feel like the tone of that, I trust him. I thought it was a really weird choice to kind of launch this new thing with Creature Commandos, but man, I'm all in. I just think he did amazing with that thing. He made me care for Weasel and a robot. That's unheard of.
Mhm. Yeah, I've heard really good things about it. Rudy's been pushing me to watch it for, like, weeks now.
I would definitely there might be a couple of low episodes, but man, they went really hard with it. There's a reason why DC is kind of seen as the darker one. I'm liking the tone that he's going with this new universe.
Ray, did you
But
get your stealth failure of the year?
I think so. Uh it, yeah, I want to say I did. I'm forgetting what it was now.
While you're thinking about it, what do we think about Mission Impossible? Because the last one didn't do very good, despite how good it
Yeah.
was. And I don't know if that was just the part 1, it was that simple, or what happened. Maybe it was just in a bad release window with Oppenheimer and everything, but,
I'm nervous
um
about the rabbit's foot thing. That's suddenly
Mm.
a thing again. Like you went what 4 movies without the rabbit's foot being a thing. How are you gonna if
I
he?
don't know if it is because I watched the trailer and it seems like there's just montage scenes from the other movies and a lot, and I
Okay,
don't know if that was a new scene or not.
all right.
I think people jumped the gun on that one, but if they do, yeah, I'm curious.
Yeah, I've loved everything they've done, but you are right. The last one just I don't have a taste in my mouth from that most recent one, and I didn't hate it at all. So it's really kind of funky.
Well,
Yeah.
and aren't they somewhat abandoning that? Because it's not going to be part two, right? It's going to be a story that
Yeah, like
wraps
the
up everything
final
else.
No,
reckoning
it
or some shit.
yeah, instead of Dead Reckoning Part 2, it's the Final Reckoning, and I
Oh,
have
my bad.
it's gonna be one of those weird, like, collector's items that I have a Blu-ray that says Dead Reckoning Part 1 when it's just Dead Reckoning now. But,
Huh.
even that title, like, I thought that indicated and even the tone of the trailer indicated this is the last one, but I'm hearing otherwise, which that's Hollywood for you. You put final in it if you have no plans of it being final.
Yeah,
Hmm.
right, right. The good old horror trick.
Yeah.
Sean for CP, which is weirder, Titan or Crash by Cronenberg?
Ooh.
Never seen Crash.
Uh, I'll
Ooh.
say Crash
It's
because
on par with Titan.
the French are
It's out
weird
there.
anyway. Like like I'd flip a coin. They're both pretty fucking weird.
Yeah,
But
I'll let you have that.
So I think I misunderstood you when you said, like, my stealth one that I think is gonna bomb. Yeah, I didn't realize that you meant for 2025. Um, the Naked Gun remake. I have no idea if that's gonna work. So I did a little digging into it. It is gonna star Liam Neeson, which
Mhm.
Liam Neeson can play a straight man. He's okay in some comedies, but man, looking at all the kind of like spoof and parody movies we've had recently, I'm looking at you, Unfrosted. I don't know if the public is on board with spoof movies. Like I'm trying to think of the last one that actually hit, and it seems like it would have been like one of the scary movies because after that it became the whatever movie
it's
movie.
been a bit.
Um,
Yeah.
so I don't know. That one really concerns me. I kind of think that one's not gonna do the business they're thinking. But
What the
it's
hell's
been
going
a
on with Saw
first for comedy.
11?
That's still
Do they
October,
even
no?
have anything on that one? I
No,
think they said that
everything
it's next year now.
well, I don't it was supposed to be a year turnaround, which I was glad that they delayed it.
Hmm.
But since the delay, all I've been reading is like rumors and leaks that like there's a lot of problems where like the studio doesn't have faith in the writers of Saw X where they want to take it and a bunch of other stuff. Somebody said that they were shopping it around to Blumhouse and a few other people to see if they don't want to buy it to redo it. Like I don't know if any of this is true, but it feels weird that we're not hearing anything. Like, I haven't heard they're shooting. I haven't there's no
Yeah.
release dates. There's no trailer, of course. And it just seems very odd that they banked on Saw X, had way more success than they could have ever dreamed for
Right.
with the box office and the critical appraise of it, and haven't been able to just like springboard into another one.
Yeah, even if you just make it for the same budget, you're playing with house money.
Yeah.
That's weird.
It is weird. It's just a weird situation because I've been really looking forward to it. I was never really a crazy Saw guy, and I loved X. And I'm like, fucking
Mm.
let's go. What's next? And now I'm on board. They're like, I don't know.
We
Getting
might
cold
Yeah, I
lose
feet
liked
now.
them, but
$5.
Yeah. And the shame of it is like not to get dark, like time's a ticking as far as Tobin Bell
Yep.
goes. And
well, you can wear the hat backwards.
well, I just mean if how many years he's got left. And then they very much left Saw X open. It's not like that can be an ending. Like there's that whole
Yeah,
thing with the main villain is meant to be a multi-film arc, and it's like, don't fuck that up. Don't let that be the legacy of Saw X. Like, what would have happened if they didn't fuck around?
Mm. Alan, $5. Thank you. Hello, CeePo. Rude Advice Award winner. Technically, it's the Lomax Award winner. But thank you for the congratulations. Cody and Gray.
the distinguished award. Hey.
Any thoughts on Daredevil Born Again? As a fan of season 3, I'm really hyped for this one.
I still haven't watched the trailer that they released a couple of days ago. I'm glad that
Ooh,
they went back to the drawing board because when they were trying to do that, it's kind of the same people, but not. That was going to piss me off. It's like they wanted to make Daredevil season 4 without having to make Daredevil season 4, so they just wanted all the borrowed trust and fandom, and that was gonna anger a lot of people. So I'm glad Feige came in and said, "Nope, start over. Not doing that."
for sure. That bodes well to me that they're kind of course correcting. I hope they did it justice because that trailer looks pretty good. I'm cautiously optimistic. Like, they scrapped the whole thing, but I guess that's kind of Marvel's MO now is to just redo things after they're done instead of like getting it right the first time. So I hope the correction is enough. I really dug some of those Netflix ones. That season 1 is like almost flawless for me. So yeah, I hope this lives up to that legacy.
Yeah, the television series stuff, especially like Marvel stuff. I need to hear glowing accounts of how the entire season was good before I even think about it.
Same.
I mean, I was shocked that Skeleton Crew impressed me start to finish. Not a glowing recommendation, mind you, but I was thanks, nice. And Dexter Original Sin so far
It'll do.
doesn't suck.
Yeah.
Please don't fuck this up.
Yeah.
So I'm a little shoddy when it comes to watching television series from the jump.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And that's our time. Thank you guys for joining us for the entire shindig. Gray, what do you got coming up that you've been working years on?
So yeah, eventually there will be content, but yeah, I'm gonna resuscitate my channel, which you wouldn't be able to tell that I'm on the internet multiple times a week by looking at my channel. So yeah, I'm gonna change that. But yeah, I'm gonna finish out my top 10 list of good, of really bad movies from last year, and then surprises. Those seem like relatively easy videos that I'll be turning out over the next few days. So please come check those out. But other than that, there eventually will be a kind of long forum reasons why I think the criticism of Joker is incorrect, and then why I really was not entertained by Gladiator 2. So eventually those things will happen, but that's about all I got going on. Yeah. Other than that, always around to talk about movies.
Gray Poupe is a channel name. It's down below. A status update on show business. Lindsay's in Los Angeles. That's all you need to know. He's going through some shit. So, it's gonna be a bit. That's all I could tell you. And on to more fun news. Cody, what do you got coming up?
I don't have a date for it because I think I'm gonna attach a sponsor ad to it, so I don't know when I'm gonna get it out. But I did something a little different where I saw a lot of people doing these tier lists where they put all of the announced 2025 movies, or at least a bunch of them, and they put them in a tier based off of how well they're gonna do in the box office. And I did my own version of that where I made like a prediction of what I'm gonna rate it, like how good I think the movie's gonna be, so that I can go at the end of the year and see how accurate I was. That might be stupid, but it might be fun. That's already recorded, which is going to be funny because I recorded it before I watched Wolfman, and I was like, "Go out and buy it; it's going to be fucking awesome." And so I'm gonna have to put like a little bit in there where I'm gonna like narrate. Anyway, it's going to be fun. That's going to come out at some point next week, and then the next new release that we have is kind of an oddball. On the 24th, we have Flight Risk, which is
Mark
the
Wahlberg?
Mark Wahlberg plane movie that's directed by Mel Gibson that looks like no other film that Mel Gibson has directed. So I'm very, very curious.
I enjoy his work, and we finally
I do too,
we
but
figured out a way to get Mel Gibson in the show.
there you go. I saved it, but it's just very strange that like, I don't think he's ever directed anything. Maybe aside from, didn't he do like Man Without a Face? Like that might be the only one that I can think of that's not like this epic scale, apocalypto Passion of the Christ, and then he's doing this little thriller Flight Risk. So
Yeah,
It looks interesting, but
it
I don't
does.
know.
yeah, it doesn't feel like a quote unquote Mel Gibson film, but yeah,
No, not at all.
yeah.
It looks like a
Doesn't feel like a
January
Wahlberg movie.
Mark Wahlberg film, and then I see by Mel Gibson. I'm like, what the fuck? Okay, I'm intrigued now.
And also, somebody just mentioned the Metallica stream. There'll be some sort of sequel to that. We're not going to be doing a sequel to Metallica, but Cody, Rudy, Gray, and I will be discussing bands that have moved on with fallen ex-members. We're kind of working out the kinks on when that'll happen, but if you enjoyed the music stuff, more of it is coming up soonish.
Oh
So
yeah.
for Gray and Cody, I have been Charles. Have an evening. Or don't. You fuck OBS, you piece of shit.